Ewie many aje papa esan se mehu party mpanimfo bebre a enkatete no anka ehia se ya enkomo mmabi ana meboa me constituency ankasa mehu former vice chairman for ne former deputy women organizer for ne mpanimfo bebre former regional secretary anka ye constitution dada ne de ye adwuma enka omo mahabi munu yakuma amigina mo anim ha sei enche bia na party ka say yebeko conference ewo Legon na yakohwe nsakraye kakra wo constitution ni mu enti eku a party ni na yeteye nipa be nso a party ni teye no munu yakuma na meka ho bi ye chin ko Ghana constituencies be 276 any party mpanimfo di nkomo se nsakraye be ne yenye wo constitution ni mu nsakraye ba ko na ya yenti a wo abaye ba betu you can be wo ochina unye executive nanso party chradwen aba be chire bi eni say ye bie mu say former executives yem form nka ho ye ni president Kufuor kodi nkomo Nana Dodankwa kodi nkomo Dr. Bawumia kodi nkomo nkofo bebre kodi nkomo asori dem ana say asori asase so na yegina yi me nka nitro metumi atene me nsa e wo Nyankopon ni maka chiro say nipa ba ko a odi mu akotini nti a na wo former executive vote e bi no only Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia out here saying. Into the okay, that was say. I drink power the buy and now boy, my engine yet to me a carbon. And you know,
na niema bo akosoropa from 2022 COVID impacts no e buy no Ukraine war and COVID ema niema bo ekosoro 2024 election mo nyina mo kai say na ye ka say abdia esi no na niema bo ekosoro Ghana hanyina eye COVID na ebaye ema nipa niema bo ekosoro any Russia Ukraine war ye ka saade no omampanyi Mahama ne NDC omoka say ye twantro omo say COVID insan nimu at all enya sa no mukaye almost economic mismanagement enya sa no mukaye say COVID enye a factor me say me kan say I think nra ena omampanyi echo New York ena omo okoka say Africa nyina niema bo echo soro because of COVID. Semut Mwati. Or say COVID ninti ena niema bo ekosro. Or say a lot of ye effort ed reduce poverty over 10 years or 20 years. COVID no edi sa effort ningina abaform in just 2 years. Sa no kind. Enti sa unim sa but wanka election and yes sir onim ne kreno ba wanka yen yehu problem no omo ehu problem no enti nyame adom obi abehu bebi an kreno da enti 2028 yen sesan ya adwen yen fa emma Dr. Bawumia and MPP na yen fa economic management no enkoso because we got it right before Okwe report no bae. Me kanchire Nana Akufo-Addo na ye wo meeting mo enye me no nkwa me ne no nkrofo bi ena ye meeting ena ye di nkomo ye say we ewo ho boku wo ho ye say we Muslim ene we no nyina na ye di nkomo hwe reasons are ena me kanchire Nana Akufo-Addo say papa me de ye nhwemu a Okwe report ye eba ena omukase Dr. Bawumia uye kramoni nti anase mampusi kusa sinti na ye ulusi abano medie mebe step it down me nkopio sana me kanchire me papa Nana Akufo-Addo me ka say because me pese me mfa interest ahead of the party. The party's interest must always be ahead of me. Intin say, because of the party, I will sacrifice any ambition if ne kwa yebelusi. But Okwe report ne baye, Ashanti report ne baye, Conrad Adenauer Foundation report ne baye, Ninyina by the same conclusion. Religion, tribe was not a factor in the 2024 election.
Absence of myself or my deputy at the United Nations, you know, I was Deputy Chief of Staff from 2017 to 2021. I was Minister from 2021 to 2025. And on every occasion of anger, Minister Okudzeto Ablakwa was there as ranking. He was always in the chamber. I've been with him several times in the chamber when the president addresses the nation. The reason why the tradition has been established that the ranking should be at the UN General Assembly is because largely when the president is on that stage, he's there for all of Ghana. And it's important that all of us, the various actors in the body politic of Ghana, are seen to be supporting the president, and all of us are lifting and holding the flag of Ghana, which is why Minister Okudzeto Ablakwa, when he was ranking, was consistently at UN General Assembly for 8 successive years. On the occasion when he has become Minister for Foreign Affairs, he has conveniently decided that none of us should be there. But why are we not there? You have to ask the minister, not me. The minister has answered that question. Yeah, because my deputy was willing and eager to go and assist in raising the flag of Ghana, only for him to get to check-in counter and and he's denied access. But
sorry, and we are having a moral audacity. Sorry, said we are going out there to fight Galamsey. And then we have the nerves to be criticizing John Dramani Mahama, and then me I will not go into that tangent, and everybody may come and say, my people think I'm just being controversial, but it's a fact. No near 2012, and I will be a quiet demonstrating it here John Dramani Mahama. Say John Dramani Mahama buying at the Ghana Galamsey headquarters near to Kroma. And a Ghana for party for you so Galamsey for politics. The sitting president Akufo-Addo adding a life to on the line the presidency added to online or baffle for first week because the people that he hide around him, majority of them allegedly were part of this Galamsey here. The NDC for Mesa no my in Galamsey no. Some of them came to continue. So what moral right have we got to even come back and today use Galamsey to do politics? The leader don't want to another than Akufo-Addo. Or you're not doing so fighting Galamsey. But because some people were doing it under his own watch, allegedly, and you know, to me, to me, I'm fighting to achieve the dreams of Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. It is a neno. What sorry the Galamsey Baba politics are. We don't have any moral right at this moment to criticize the NDC because we have failed in all flaws. Failed. And we need to get the moral high ground before we can criticize the NDC. If you don't have the moral high ground, we can never do that. Except a dishonest politician. Except somebody who doesn't have that kind of political, purging. And Obeka just saying sorry. Now you criticize the NDC at the moment. Just one time you talk about Galamsey when you out of power propaganda, and then you have come back in opposition now. You want to come and tell Ghanaian people say you are better off. It will take a foolish strategic politician to talk like that. Because Ghanaians will not buy it. Nobody will buy that. And you need to understand the Ghana electorate, omunyan kwasiafo said the omunim nyansa chen ye kasa no said the omunim nyansa omadwene mu da ho eti saa krokro de don politics na ye no yenyai
wa fada men ka se bibli dan pesa m ka cha ban se me kuta nkura mienu kuta da finance so bi nya adwuma nje ti mesra na Sajme bu ona say ya amagba susu yen u se ugina ase na wo dabisa wa usha anope ya fan ya adwendwen nti o ya na wa yere adwendwen nti ya na yesu ya de kakra gum wo de na wo de gum wa wa ne cha ye de na minute ya ko cha ma say Why when you go to my side, black red.
Hey. Now, other party two way they say I say Mbowo. Better now I can protest because some men until 1970.
I don't know my who say, oh, yeah, faith. Yeah, faith. I'm not a job that boy said, the boy want to.
We MPP near because MPP for a protest. We MPP ni.
But me a MPP ni. That's what I'm called by this me count. We a MPP ni.
What's happening?
What father? I mean, can say everybody. The person catch up and say, me good time call me no. We could have advertisements. So me young, me young man yeah. To Mr. So you may go on and say, yeah, I'm a boy to say.
Who say we didn't answer now? Who that be sad?
Wow, yeah, I'm not paying your fine. Yeah, I don't drink to Yana.
Why?
I don't drink to Yana. So yeah, they got cragum.
Ah, what they don't know they go.
Why when you chat?
Yeah, then I'm in it.
I coach a man say. Why when you coach a man say, black red.
Hey. Now, other party two way they say I say Mbowo. Better now I can protest because some men until 1970.
I don't know my who say, oh, yeah, faith. Yeah, faith. I'm not a job that boy said, the boy want to.
We MPP near because MPP for a protest. We MPP ni.
But me a MPP ni. That's what I'm called by this me count. We a MPP ni.
Small and relatively insignificant. Of the 51 member states involved in the founding of the United Nations in 1945, only 4 were African: Egypt, Ethiopia, Liberia, and South Africa. It is important to point out that the United Nations came into being in the aftermath of World War II because of the inability of its predecessor, the League of Nations, to avert a large-scale global conflict, which had been its guiding purpose when it was founded in 1920 at the end of the First World War. Out of the 42 founding member states of the League of Nations, only 3 were African: Liberia, the Union of South Africa, and Ethiopia. Egypt was to join later in 1937. Africa's overall participation in the organization's founding was minimal and relatively unimportant. That's because before all the other talks and meetings, representatives from a group of 14 nations gathered in Berlin for a series of discussions that began in 1884 and which led to the partitioning and formal colonization of the African continent, which is also called the Scramble for Africa. It has famously been written that past is prologue. Well, in the past, the majority of the 54 nations that now comprise Africa were never offered a seat at the table where plans for a new world order were being drawn. But, Madam President, as fate would have it, the tables are turning, and Africa's role in the authorship of whatever is yet to come for this world is going to be huge, and it will be consequential. According to this organization's own projections, by the year 2050, more than 25% of the world's population is expected to come from the African continent. Additionally, by 2050, 1/3 of all young people aged between 15 to 24 will be residing on the African continent. So you see, the future of this world is African. Allow me to say this once again a little louder for those of you in the back. The future is African. Already today, Africa is a catalyst for human potential and development, as well as for economic reform and ecological stability. Africa is a catalyst for systemic change. If this reality, which is fact-based and straightforward, seems provocative or unsettling, perhaps it's because you are viewing it through the lens of centuries of filters, colonialism and imperialism, and the resulting implicit bias. Maybe you are unaware of the resilience of African nations or their remarkable ability to make a strong comeback just when you think it's safe to count them out. That is what is happening right now in my own country, Ghana. Our constitution limits leaders to 2 4-year terms. In January, I was sworn in for a second term, which, let me point out, was non-consecutive with my first term. Our currency, the Ghana cedi, was rapidly depreciating, faced with rising inflation, a huge debt burden, and low morale amongst our citizens. My new administration settled down quickly and embarked on an ambitious program of comprehensive transformation designed to restructure Ghana's economic foundation and enhance our competitive standing globally. We refer to this process of recalibration as our reset agenda. In just 8 months, we have achieved significant reduction in inflation from 23.8% in December 2024 to 11.5% in August 2025, restoring price stability for our citizens. Additionally, our currency, the Ghana cedi, has appreciated considerably against other currencies, with Bloomberg reporting it as the best performing currency in the world at one point. Our improved sovereign credit rating reflects increasing investor confidence in our economy. And our 24-hour economy initiative promises to transform our economy. And there's a renewed willingness amongst our people to trust that their elected officials have Ghana's interests at heart and that we're progressing together. Madam President, I believe that in honor of this milestone celebration, the United Nations should also embark on a process of serious recalibration and establish its own reset agenda. Since the organization's founding, the number of UN member nations has nearly quadrupled. And quite frankly, it is not the same world that it was back then when the UN was formed. I mentioned earlier that I began my second non-consecutive term as president this past January. My first term ended in January 2017. In that span of time, 8 years, the world has changed with such ferocity. My first days in office after my return felt as though I had just awakened from a Rip Van Winkle-style sleep. Now, no, that was only after 8 years. Imagine then what it will be like after 80 years since the founding of the United Nations. In 1945, the sun had not yet set on the largest empire in history. The most common mode of international travel was by sea. The personal computer had not been invented, let alone made portable. And television, a new convenience, was still in its infancy, albeit in black and white color. Relations between the US and the Soviet Union were turning frosty, with Winston Churchill declaring that an iron curtain has descended across the European continent. Fast track 80 years on. In today's world, hundreds of thousands of commercial flights take off and land every day. Libraries have been digitized so that volumes of literature can exist on a small device, small enough to fit inside your pocket. We live in a world of cryptocurrency, artificial intelligence, social media, the internet and its dark hidden dungeon of the dark web, all of which carry a potential threat to global peace and security. Climate change is real, and we're fighting a losing battle against the loss of Maldives and other island nations to the rising sea level, against the loss of Timbuktu to desertification and the Amazon forest to global warming and deforestation. Madam President, the UN Founding Charter is outdated when it comes to representation in this August Assembly. The most powerful post-World War II nations are still being rewarded with an almost totalitarian guardianship over the rest of the world. And yet, the first sentence in Chapter 2, Article 1 of the UN Charter declares that the organization is based on the principle of sovereign equality of all its members. If this were true, and was the case, a continent as large as Africa, with its numerous UN member states, would have at least one permanent seat on the Security Council. Furthermore, we believe that veto power should not be restricted to only 5 nations, nor should it be absolute. There must be a mechanism in this House for the General Assembly to challenge a veto. No single nation should be able to exercise an absolute veto to serve its own interests in a dispute. In 1995, during the 50th anniversary of the United Nations, Nelson Mandela stood in this very spot, and he said, the United Nations has to reassess its role, redefine its profile, and reshape its structures. It should truly reflect the diversity of our universe and ensure equity among the nations in the exercise of power within the system of international relations in general and the Security Council in particular. I close quotations. 30 years later, we African leaders are still making the same simple request for a permanent seat on the Security Council with the power of a veto. So today, Madam President, I stand here in this exact spot and ask the world, if not now, then when? We demand not only a reform of the Security Council, but also a reset of the global financial architecture, which is currently rigged against Africa. Africa must have a greater say in the world's multilateral financial institutions. And while I'm making requests, I'd like to call for the removal of the blockade on Cuba. As Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, our nation's founder, famously said, we seek to be friends with all and enemies to none. The Cuban people shed their blood on African soil in the fight against apartheid. And indeed, Cuba has been and continues to be a faithful friend of Africa. You see, the very fact that I can stand here and ask these things and say these things, and the fact that all nations can ostensibly gather here to address critical global issues, air our grievances, and express our concerns, that is what makes the survival of this organization so important. In every old city or village, you will find a town square, or a courtyard, or a plaza that once served as a gathering space for the citizens of the community and their leaders. Meetings and celebrations were held there, as were trials and elections. And these were spaces that brought people together and held them together as a community. Sadly, time and technology have eroded these spaces. Madam President, in many ways, the United Nations is the proverbial town square of our modern global village. And it has never been more critical for us to protect this one space that brings and holds the world nations together as a community. The internet, social media platforms, and artificial intelligence offer us the illusion of connectivity, when in fact what they do is reinforce isolation by using algorithms that ensure that we do not receive new ideas and perspectives, but rather more of the same content. We are served alternative facts and manipulated images, making it easy to disseminate disinformation and sow seeds of division amongst communities. Madam President, these are dangerous times. Our world is currently experiencing a rise in nationalism and economic instability. There's a general breakdown of multilateralism. Various acts of aggression have been committed against the sovereignty of others, and nations are attempting to circumvent the very safeguards that were put in place to prevent large-scale global conflict. These conditions are all too similar to the ones that led to the League of Nations' failure in fulfilling its mandate. The denial of visas to President Abbas and the Palestinian delegation sets a bad precedent and should be deeply worrying to all member nations of the United Nations. Ghana recognized the state of Palestine in 1988 and supported a two-state solution to the conflict since then. And I say, contrary to the claims of some, a two-state solution would not be a reward for Hamas. It would rather be a reprieve for the hundreds of thousands of innocent women and children and people who are facing.
President Mahama carried out full disclosure at his media encounter because he's a staunch believer in the principles of transparency and accountability. In addition, he has absolutely nothing to hide on this matter. It is important to stress and to state unequivocally that Ghana has not received and does not seek any financial compensation or material benefit in relation to this understanding. Our decision is grounded purely on humanitarian principle and Pan-African solidarity, to offer temporary refuge where needed, to prevent further human suffering, and to maintain our credibility as a responsible regional actor. Ghana's decision must be understood as an act of Pan-African empathy. It is not transactional. Like Rwanda, Eswatini, Uganda, South Sudan, who are welcoming fellow Africans, the government of Ghana took the principled and humanitarian decision to accept the limited number of West African nationals deported from the United States under exceptional circumstances, in line with Ghana's long-standing Pan-African ideals and unwavering commitment to regional solidarity. Let me emphasize that under this understanding with the United States, Ghana must first independently vet the background of those the U.S. intends to deport, to first satisfy ourselves that they do not pose any threat to them.
Government is broke, government is broke. But people are spending billions to go inside the government that is broke. Have you ever seen a minister who resigned because government is broke before? Government has no money. Have you ever seen a governor who said, ladies and gentlemen, when I was elected, I thought the government had money. Now I discover government has no money, I resign. Have you ever seen it? Government has no money, but they are bringing money out at election time. Where is that money coming from? So they are lying. What is happening is that there are two types of wicked people in government. Type 1, they eat current money. Any money they find in government, they will eat it. They are wicked about that one. There is type 2. Type 2, they eat current money and future money. They will say, my term will end next year. When I leave, how will I eat money? Let me borrow money now and borrow money of the future and eat it now.
Good morning, good morning. Welcome to the show. This is Good Morning Ghana on Metro Television. My name is Awudu Moro. It is always a pleasure to come your way. Today's a Friday, isn't it? And whereas Muslims were enjoying and entreated to be at the mosque at 12:30, so I said Juma Mubarak to my Muslim friends who are watching the show this morning. And today is the 26th of September 2025. A big thanks to the Almighty God for granting us another rare privilege of returning here to join the nation's conversation on the big issues that matter to you and I, in fact, the issues that are making the rounds in our dear country, Ghana. I'll go straight ahead and look at the front pages of the newspapers that we have today, and as always, my favorite daily guide, the daily graphic, isn't it? Daily graphic is what I will start with. After 80 years, UN must reset. President Mahama demands a bigger voice for Africa. And there's also youth unemployment will hamper Galamsey fight, says Sam Jonah. Implement reforms for sustainable development, World Bank tells government. And as Ghana launches National Energy Compact, it comes under Africa's Missions 300 initiative. Also, the Ghanaian Times. Reforms Security Council. President Mahama demands at the UNGA, which is UNGA, and there's fighting Galamsey needs chief's power, not just law, says Sam Jonah. Ghana launches National Energy Compact for reliable energy, and this government injects 2 billion cedis into District Assembly's Common Fund, VIB. Daily Guide. We will push for African reparation, and there's illegal miners on rampage take over Great Coast sites. Exploitation of Africa's resources must end, Mahama. And there's woman, 42, dies in Galamsey pits. That's sad, isn't it? NADMO officer found dead in river. The new weekend crusading guide. Land guards evade Gomwa Hakramang, destroy cemetery. And there's Galamsey showdown. Aboyanga dares Kenel Tale strikes back with fire. Mahama fires up Africa at UNGA, and there's forget aid, asset control over natural resources. There's Seruni Aite Tete. Cero, congratulations. That's a very good friend of mine. Seruni Aite Tete named African Real Estate Personality of the Year at 2025 AP Awards in South Africa. And there's land guards invaded Gomwa Kraman Destroy Cemetery, and there's UNGA snub. Foreign Minister boots out MPP MP at airport. Farmer sector face Galamsey shutdown as raw materials, environmental standards get compromised. The Insight. Mahama speaks on Palestine, and the Ghana Law Society hails new judicial independence under Bafo Boni. China salutes SMG over successful National Congress, backs demand for reparations payment. Rescue Ghana Sports. Skillsman Tornado proposes collaboration of education and sports ministries. And the socialist movement of Ghana strides forward from collectives to campaigns. Dangote, Nigerian oil workers resists monopolization by Africa's richest man. The Informer. Bamia best bet for MPP. Eastern Region MPs declare. NLA good courses. Samir Ukutrash's Fourth Estate's report describes it as lopsided and mischievous. Race for NDC's 2028 standard bearer. Sack Eriko Puku others. Pratt urges Mahama. Prioritizing economy over fight. Galamsey will hand Mahama Baka Voma war. And as Haruna applauds Jane Nana describes her as a champion of education and gender rights. The Inquisitor. Alleged fabrication of evidence. Jakba holds Dame's balls. The Sabiuku sets records on good causes straight. Government to declare forest water bodies as security zones. And there's coming up, this has been coming up the last 2 weeks. Tell us the story. Coming up, Nikwate Titus Glover and Dodua land controversy. The Herald. Bamia reveals how 3 post-defeat reports exonerated him. Mahama calls for UN reset, highlight Africa's role in global governance. There's MEDA tasked to coordinate grants from MasterCard, Bill and Melinda Gates, etc. Samiuku trumpets NLA's 100 million cities good causes impact. NPP youth demo marred by public weed smoking. Dagbang overlord backs Explocos oil drilling in Voltarian Basin. The Daily Statesman. Samiuku defends NLA's good causes spending. Asenso Boache commissions ultramodern constituency office in Bantaba. Ghanaians losing faith in Galamsey fight. There's APL poll. The future is African. Mahama at UN. The Ghanaian publisher, Professor Kwesianka writes, farewell, River Yentu. And there's 15 Eastern MPs endorsed Baumia. Euku rejects NLA misuse allegations. There's Mahama presses on slave trade recognition. Daily Post. Mahama calls for permanent African seat on UN Security Council, says the world body must establish its own reset agenda. There's Be Responsible on social media. Cybersecurity Authority warns SHS graduates. Ghana National Energy Compact launched to accelerate energy access. And the Catholic Standard. Snumboard on Ben Asoro with citation. And the CDF pays tribute to Ambassador designate to the Holy See. And Galamsey poisoning our future. And there is always an editorial, isn't there? That's the Ghana Stand. That's the Catholic Standard. It says the standard of truth. There's also Galamsey fast storm. There's a Ghana soul at stake. Crops, fish poisoned in the Galamsey areas. That's according to a study. All right, so that's it for the newspaper headlines. Stay with us. This is Good Morning Ghana. Don't go anywhere. But check out what's on Metro TV online.
Sometimes the unexpected happens and the hero falls down in his own story. But he needs not stay down for long. Cosmopolitan Health Insurance is your trusted health partner. Whether an individual building a business, with Cosmopolitan Health Insurance, your medical care is our concern. For the best health insurance solutions for corporate institutions, groups and associations, families and individuals, choose Cosmopolitan Health Insurance from our over 700 accredited health service providers nationwide. Call us on 0302 540 668 or 0501 678 547 for all your health insurance solutions. Cosmopolitan Health Insurance, your medical care is our concern.
Hello, my friends. My name is Kelkit's Toothpaste.
Wow.
I was made to be gentle on your gum, but protected. I will protect your teeth from cavity, make your teeth whiter, stronger, keep your mouth fresh all day. And best of all, I'm strawberry flavored. So put on a smile and try me.
That's amazing.
Just try me. That's my job.
If you say so, jump on my brush. Makes your teeth stronger, chicky whiter, chicky stronger. Yay! You did it!
I'm glad you like your new toothpaste. Don't forget to brush both day and night.
Kelkits, happy smile.
I'm a brand manager. Of course, I accept only quality and affordable printed souvenirs for my promotional campaigns.
I'm the head of academic affairs of a very important institution in Ghana. Of course, we only deal with quality, reliable printing companies for our institution's printing materials. I'm talking about appointed time printing.
Appointed Time Printings. We take pride in our extensive print scope that transform your ideas into captivating visual masterpieces. We delve into the core objectives and vision of each print project. Precision printing is at the heart of our printing process as we meet your tight deadlines. Our rigorous inspection, color verification, and overall printing excellence are assured. 20 years of printing excellence. It's always a pleasure working with you to create a vibrant, dazzling printing experience that gives you a masterpiece. Appointed Time Printing, your world of quality and affordable printing.
Healthy soil is where every great harvest begins. At ACAP, we turn waste into wealth, producing rich organic compost made right here in Ghana for our farmers and our future. Whether you are planting small or big, ACAP compost improves your soil, boosts your yields, and saves you money. Even in your own home garden, give your soil life naturally. ACAP compost, from waste to wealth.
Kwame and his uncle are almost here.
Wait a minute. This one too, your friend Kwame.
Wait, Kwame. As in the same Kwame again?
Yes, Mommy.
I'm the second coming. Into all this tension just to reintroduce that broke boy from Kaswa.
Why would you deceive the family like this again?
Now I understand the whole delay. Troll from Kaswa, dear. Why wouldn't he be late? Obey you later.
Of course.
Star 712 hash, star 712 hash. You go be the luckiest. Go be from Georgia, be luckiest. From not the cause she be luckiest. Yeah, you go be luckiest. No matter why you're luckiest. Everybody go be the luckiest.
God, Kwame!
Send your God the apple boom. If you put it that way, so would the coming of the Son of Man be.
Hey!
Is that his car?
Dial star 712 hash. Choose your ticket. Enter your lucky number. Follow the prompt and let destiny handle the rest.
This promotion is regulated by the NLA on the Caritas platform.
Hey, baby, I yes, send a nanny if you say for the time. 2023. Yeah. 2022, 2023. Forest Nibi Hokre, if you say 2018. Apambrama. 2018.
You can say, NDC for need deforest.
2018. Apambrama. Home Fiase Okobro. Sir John. Any papa be a friend Donald Entia.
Sir John, where we?
Yes.
Odim.
Or many be a forest, no. No, Obia Winimbia, Obia or take Cobro be a becatro. Cobro. Who saw him or no becatro? The soldiers, I call Bob buying.
2018 and
yes. Time. Sir John the Babontin so almost year reclamation of forest in him. At that time, no beer and quiet be or why equal reclaim. Mammy dear Cham a choir. Echo hair, nanya reclamation no more, no more too gold. Our forest, first Cassio, I knew any big Jinawa, a Jinaho Bay and Fear Bears, Oha,
Moodim,
almost Sano. Heritage Imperial, Sir Company, no?
Yeah.
Actually, Professor from Pom Water, but done a designer Gabi, as I wrote that cause on a lawyer. 2018, nominee license be our media mining of forest. But now almost excavators 35, more than 35. I go forest no more almost. Meme Kobe. That time from Pom Water the task force call Hosea and Copa Mom, Nam DH, Nam account. Discover. Oh, 2018, Whamreswa.
Okay.
Yeah, by yeah, the whole reports about 2 abonting. A bit that YouTube CCI. No, also on Yanoko. Yeah, whole report. Yeah. Oh man, stop. Oh man, yai. Yes, easy excavators, not the bank crying. Almost as a sackboy, said John, yeah, dear Nimu, and almost excavators, and a call back to Cobro. I could deforest noir and forest no. Uchem Mienua, a fa Adania Manamana, Ubia with Nimo Daho, Obiaqua, Cobro. Sound crew in our treso. Ning now a pamperamanum. Ubi onim will be on what it will be a catro. It's a dampine.
As I'm in a year, Ben now comes
2018. If you are saying, no, my dear, Bessie 2023, 2024 in Nanomugum,
Omudi,
and now Koha, send me drone footage natural young show. As I say, and a cassia, forest and a cassia base Kumasi, and the Aseno. Nina Daniel.
Hey,
yeah, yes. The cassia base Kumasi.
And she dear Nana GFKD Jina so Casse.
Tananya. Our wing NPP executive been a kosher on China for. And Fias so almost say forest. That was in 2023. I made me call a kosher, my friend, Chema Edison. My friend, Nam said, I don't know what the Chinese for call on the license or the minor or on saying when denying. Or some per time I'm running in common. I'm saying time they may pay by me a dinkum obey. I then I would want kosher or license. Yes. On the Fias or Tanonia. Forest Reserve. No mudia. Actually, MPP executives will braid the excavators kugum. Yeah, home report. Yeah, you'll be in fee. And almost set Tanonia. Besine. Boy River, the same thing. Boy Tunnel, Forest Reserve, the same thing. Or Fin Shelter Belt. MPP time, almost started almost said. And about we buy no, almost your 2, almost twice. Here, I keep 3 points. Forest Bureau.
Yeah.
MPP time, no Fiasia, almost said. Oko a Siran. Sashi.
Yeah.
Mrewa. Krokosia, Forest Reserve. MPP time, no Fiasia, no Moseno.
This is as I mean so forest.
Oh, Papa, Supima, I will be quiet here. MPP time, no Moseno to 2 more. Anna, or the commander Biba, forest manager Biba on there. No nonsense, no so the excavator Roma Meshano. Ufiasia shape Bakum Yunumi and San Echo do Anna for Mujai.
Honestly, I'm very cranny at that transfer.
Oh, I'm going to try some better transfer, but Nipako or her Nejuman, and this one Nejuman to a jam, so on your Nejuman. Enti, Nana, ma, just say, Metese, MPP for the year politics. Nay, can say, me, Fossos will be near Galamsey, whether MPP or whatever it is.
Yeah.
It has no political color.
Yeah.
But, ma, Obin Casse, a coup for the time, no a saint. Na ni ate we.
JFK.
Na ni ate we. You see, sa ni ma no. E na omo ye da metia na e bufu e time. Ampao. E time metibia. E na me hu wes amenfa ma sa de no ntino. Oh, say omo bebre afrefre me a. Memra me fa information mo no mo fa nye campaign ni ma. Me nya sa ni ma.
We're still watching Good Morning Ghana on Metro Television. This show is also live on 94.1 FM. You can see on your screens, we've actually displayed our various digital media platforms where you can catch Good Morning Ghana and all your other favorite shows here or programs here on Metro Television. So check that out. So on Facebook, it's Metro TV Ghana, and also on X, it's the same. Again, we're live on channel 277 on your DSTV. Also live in multi-TV, and so you can tune in. You can also tune into 94.1 as I indicated earlier. So here we are. We're giving you all the options for you to be able to watch us and enjoy our favorite programs here, or your favorite programs here on Metro TV and Original TV. Aren't we caring? We are. Yeah, we are. Yes. Anyway, so my guests are seated. Paul Adomotri is here. Paul Adomotri is host of Good Evening Ghana, a journalist and also former board chair of the Ghana Airport Company Limited. And then also Inusa Fuseni, Esquire, private legal practitioner, and also former Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, a former Minister for Roads and Highways, and also a former MP for Tamale Central. Both of them are here. We'll kickstart with our main conversations or the vex issue. We'll go into the vex issues for the day. Good morning, gentlemen. Thank you very much for joining us on the show.
Good morning, Omodo. And good morning, Paul.
Your Excellency, how are you?
This is the closest I've come to Paul, actually. Last time.
Has he always called you His Excellency?
No,
Your Excellency.
You see, that's how he is.
Oh,
you know,
okay.
even back in Lagos, that's how he is. You'll be nice on set and they dish you when you're down in
Excellency.
The last time we met was in London when I was a deputy.
Oh, yes, that's correct. At a conference.
The conference.
Yes.
Then I presented the paper. And then you sort of liked what I said.
Absolutely, it was good.
Yeah. What conference was that?
It was about natural resources.
Yeah.
I mean, adding value to our natural resources.
Okay.
Someone had come before me to explain that when you add value, to your natural resources, you get 5 times the reward.
Okay.
Than selling it on a distance.
And what was your position?
My position was exactly that.
Okay.
And I had said that, well, because mining is a long-term relationship, we need to look at a situation where we will have a win-win situation for the foreigners and then the Ghanaians. And that if a foreigner is taking our resources for granted, we have every right. And that's what the president said. We had every right over our natural resources. That is the sovereignty of our natural resources. We must decide how we want to use our natural resources. But we will not go to constructive nationalization.
Okay.
That is putting in place obnoxious fiscal regimes that will make it impossible for companies who have come to partner us to exploit our natural resources to operate.
Okay, that's fine. All right, so let's get on with the main issues for the day. Yesterday there was a big event. The President, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, took the stage and delivered what many have described as a fantastic speech at the ongoing United Nations General Assembly event. Now, Daily Graphic captures that story quite aptly. It says after 80 years, UN must reset. And it says President Mahama demands bigger voice for Africa. Now, you notice that the various newspapers have looked at it from different angles, which is perfectly understandable. Now, for instance, Ghanaian Times says Reform Security Council. And Daily Guide says that we'll push for African reparation. The Weekend Crusading Guide also has Mahama fires up Africa at UNGA. It says forget aid, assert control over natural resources, and that's where you are coming from. So let me just look at how the Daily Graphic has captured it, and then you tell me generally what your view is on yesterday's, what some people believe is a seminal speech by the President, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama. So Kester Abram Kranche, who's reporting all the way from New York, says that President John Dramani Mahama has issued a stern call for a fundamental reset of the United Nations and the global financial architecture, declaring that Africa's role in shaping the future global order will be huge and consequential. Addressing the 80th session of the United Nations General Assembly in New York yesterday, President Mahama stated that with projections indicating that over 25% of the world's population and a third of its youth would be African by 2050, the continent could no longer be sidelined in critical international decision-making. Now, citing the fast-paced global transformation, he said the UN could not continue to run on the same structures and protocols that defined its formative years. And it says 80 years on, in today's world, 100,000 commercial flights take off and land every day. Libraries have been digitized so that volumes of, literature can exist on a device small enough to fit inside your pocket. There's a world of cryptocurrency, artificial intelligence, social media, the internet and its dark-hidden, dungeon, the dark web, all of which carry a potential threat to global peace and security. He said, adding that the UN founding charter is outdated when it comes to representation. Now, citing his own experience as a second non-consecutive term in President Mahama said between his first term, which ended in January 2017, and now the world has changed with such ferocity, saying, my first days in office felt as though I'd just awakened from a Rip Van Winkle-styled slumber. Hey, John Mahama. Anyway, considering that it was after only 8 years, he asked the UN member states to imagine then what it would be like after 8 years. President Mahama stressed that Africa had come of age and must be accorded the appropriate courtesies on the global stage. And again, there's call for reform of the Security Council and so on and so forth. So I'll start with, you watched it yesterday? Or you listened to radio, or you watched this excerpt?
Yeah, I watched on television. I saw it. I think it was as been described,
impressed?
It was good. Yes, it was good.
Okay.
Really, the bigger impression is that most of the African leaders seem to be saying the same thing. That was quite impressive. Actually, the first time I've closely monitored the General Assembly, and I've seen the convergence of either a demand or a policy position that is resonating among Ghana, Kenya, and Mozambique. Everyone who spoke said the same thing. This is also the first General Assembly that I've seen Africa really put forward a threat. And that was also quite impressive. And perhaps it's coming at the right time. Nelson Mandela said something that President Mahama quoted. But on this occasion, Africa is threatening that it will withdraw from the United Nations if it doesn't accede to its demands of a permanent Security Council role with a veto power. The other thing that President Mahama said that was interesting is that he's asking the United Nations to allow the General Assembly to review the application of veto. That's very interesting, very, very crucial.
Why?
Because the concept of the veto power has exactly been the opposite.
Right.
That these countries among us birth our organization, they are the most important countries, and so they are going to be our brain to think going forward.
Right.
The lack of democratization at the United Nations has always been a big part of the conversation, even during the 60s, when the Kwame Nkrumahs were around. The supposed lack of democratization, Rawlings criticized it when he became a military ruler, and almost every African, Asian leader has criticized it. But it hinges on money. Really, the power that play at the United Nations hinges really on resources. Whether these resources, which are actual, are going to give away to the threats being carried by potential resources. And that's really where the conversation is. Africa is telling the United Nations that I may not have resources today, but potentially I'm the richest amongst you. My population is young. I have all the natural resources in my place. If I figure out how to go about it, I am great. So Africa is threatening with the potential. Yeah. Whether that's potential, the threat with potential resources will overcome the existence of the application of actual resources, which is really what determines what happens at the United Nations. The countries, the Security Council countries, especially America, are the biggest people in there because they pay the most. They pay for everything. They host it in New York, and other European countries host it in Geneva, and they pay. Right. Now, they have a say because they pay. He who pays the piper calls the tune. Africa is now saying that enough, we are tired of it. We may not have the money, but potentially you will need us. And it's going to be very interesting how that conversation goes. And this conversation has been going on in other forums like the WTO for a very long time. Africa has not been successful in those places, fundamentally because, well, it's a power play that is anchored on economic strength. Right. So we'll see how it comes into the United Nations. But very, very interesting how Africa positioned itself for this 80th. I think is most appropriate, and it's good to know that the Ghanaian president is playing a very big role in this new narrative that Africa is developing in the global politics.
Okay. What are we going to say?
Well, so first of all, you could see in law and in legal practice, we call it presence. I mean, you could see the presence of John Dramani Mahama looming large at the UN General Assembly, especially the tapestry of the clothing that he wore, and clearly sent a message to his colleagues there that he was coming from Ghana, Africa, and taking the stage his place on the world stage. Now, throughout history, particularly after the Second World War and the establishment of the United Nations as a successor to the League of Nations, which failed because they failed to take certain critical decisions when it mattered most and lost its legitimacy. Many nations acted with impunity. The lopsided nature of the League of Nations itself was responsible for the collapse of the first attempt at the universalization of culture and the way of behavior. Now, so when the United Nations was formed, there were certain core principles that all independent countries must apply to be members of the United Nations. That there will be a General Assembly of all the members. Now, the imperialist powers, those who were the victors in the Second World War, then couched a niche for themselves and called them the Security Council, and they were the 5 permanent members of the Security Council. Now that arrangement, it gave them certain powers, including the power of veto that Paul just referred to. And that veto seems to be inconsistent with the very founding principles of the United Nations. That look, we must meet and arrive at a consensus on how we should tackle world peace. Now, so most of the countries on most of the nations on the 5 permanent Security Council have, at one point or the other, used the veto power, aligned with their ideological persuasions and persons who they feel they must protect. Just 2 days or 3 days ago, United States exercised that veto power in preventing the United Nations from resolving to pursue a ceasefire in the United Nations, largely because of the involvement of Israel. We think that Africa must have a voice as well. I mean, you can't, 54 countries in Africa, are excluded from all decisions and discussions on the Security Council. And that is where the real power is, not in the General Assembly where it's almost like a talk shop. And so we think that you can't exclude 54 countries from having a voice on the Security Council and still think that you are a democratic institution. And so that's why African countries are pushing for a voice on the Security Council. And the push has been loudest in the past and dwindled off. Nigeria and South Africa were at the forefront for pushing for a representation on the Security Council. I think that there's a renewed attempt by African countries, like Paul alluded, almost all the African countries spoke about a certain level of reform on the Security Council to ensure that Africans have a voice. But there's no doubt that the architecture and design of the Security Council is to serve the interests of the imperialist powers. It's one. They still are couched in the mode of colonial powers. Those who had colonies in Africa and elsewhere were those who were on the Security Council. 3, it's a class system. At the United Nations. So you have the first class of people who are the 5 permanent members, and then the General Assembly. Even the General Secretary or Secretary General of the UN kowtows to the Security Council, and so the system is so skewed that most countries do not think that they have fairness in the representation at the Security Council, and that is what African countries are calling for. But John Dramani Mahama's speech was seminal in many respects. So we just discuss the call for a reset of the Security Council. And that is at the heart of the problem that Africans see of the Security Council and the United Nations. Two, these powers, and Paul says money, they contribute money and they hold the conferences. But where is the money coming from?
Right.
I mean, look at Britain. It's our colonial masters. They were back, they were a backyard of Europe. They didn't have any natural resources. Right. The wealth of the UK is largely from all the colonies that UK and Britain, colonized, and so and shift all the resources to develop their country and also have the status as a world power within the United Nations. So it is the design of the imperialist system that is perpetuating this level of deprivation and motivating the people of Africa to ask for more. Look at the real system in this country of ours. Starts from the mineral producing areas and ends at the ports. I should tell you something. That it was exploitative at best. Take the resources, move them elsewhere, and develop your country. And so, I don't know of any gold mine in the UK, but the Buckingham Palace and all the Windsor and others have huge quantities of gold. Right. Even the Bank of England has huge quantities of gold to support their currency. This gold could only have come from the colonies that were colonized, and particularly Ghana. And so, for us as a people, imperialism actually diminished our status as a people. Change. Ali Mozeri says, you meet 3 Ghanaians, and you don't know whether, or 3 Africans, and you don't know whether they are Africans, Europeans, or Asians. That's what colonization did. It robbed us of our own dignity. Now we're trying to pick the pieces and ensure that we are counted as equal members of the society, of the global society. And to be counted as equal members of the global society, we must take our rightful places. Now, we're saying that an African mining vision confirms the position of John Dramani Mahama. Now, our natural resources must be used to develop our own countries. It must be a catalyst for the development of our countries. We must exploit our resources for our own countries, because God in His wisdom gave us those resources to develop our countries, not for the resources to be taken from Africa to develop other countries. And so, yes, since we have the resources, no one should come, and that's what John Dramani Mahama was alluding to. The mining agreements that we have entered into previously have to be relooked and ensure that we take the benefits out of our natural resources.
Okay. Now, haven't expressed your thoughts generally on what the president said yesterday. I mean, I think that there are 2 issues that have taken center stage, and some of which actually started even before the president's speech yesterday, and it appears that it's continued. So the 2 issues have to do with Ghana's stance on the Gaza conflict, and also the matter which has to do with some West African nationals, about 14 of them, who have been deported from the United States of America as part of some general crackdown on illegal immigrants, and Ghana's decision to accept them, even though some of them have been deported to their host countries and so on. And the minority stance on the matter. You noticed that yesterday the president actually took the opportunity to reiterate Ghana's position on these 2 matters. Now you look at today's Insight newspaper. I noticed that Insight actually captures that story on its front page. And it says that the President John Dramani Mahama has strongly distanced Ghana from the Netanyahu government, which insists on a military approach to what some describe as the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Now, some Israeli ministers, including Israel Katz, Minister of Defense, and Itamar Ben-Gvir, the Minister of National Security, and one Bezalel Smotrich, Minister of Finance, have even rejected a 2-state solution and vowed that they will never allow the establishment of a Palestinian state. Now, speaking at the 80th General Assembly meeting of the United Nations, President Mahama said emphatically that there cannot be a military solution to the conflict. He insists that the only viable solution is the 2-state formula, which will allow a fully fledged Palestinian state with secure borders to exist side by side with Israel. Now, President Mahama said the illegal occupation of Palestinian lands makes such a solution impossible. And I'll end here and bring the 2 of you in. Now, he says that impossible to attain. In contrast, The MP minority in parliament says that Ghana should be neutral in the conflict and has widely attacked Ghana's Foreign Affairs Minister Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa for describing the Israeli actions in Gaza as genocide. Now, speaking at the press conference yesterday, Samuel Abujinapo, ranking member of the Foreign Affairs Committee of Parliament, said Okudzeto Ablakwa's comments could undermine Ghana's long-standing image as a neutral arbiter and also respected voice in global diplomacy. Meanwhile, the Socialist Movement of Ghana has, in a strongly worded resolution at the end of its second National Delegates Congress, asked the people of Ghana to show firm solidarity with the people of Palestine. Now, it describes Israel's actions in Gaza as genocidal and called for punishment for the Israel apartheid colonial occupation of Palestine, among others, amongst others. Now, Paul, I don't know where you stand on this. So, the minority thinks that we are undermining our long-standing tradition, principle of non-alignment, which is do fiasa kind of thing. And that government posturing, as far as this Israeli-Palestinian conflict is concerned, appears to have show that we are taking sides, which is we're on the side of Palestine, and that it's bad for us. You noticed yesterday in the president's speech, he's kind of insisting that what Israel is doing is wrong. Stop it, you know. What do you make of this?
Well, I look at it from another angle. The Israeli-Palestinian conflict, more than being a human rights question or a military question or even a question about governance, the geopolitical issue, has really become an ideological battle.
Right.
And that is why you see the Insight, which is the left-wing newspaper, take the position that it takes against Israel, and takes a consistent and permanent position against Israel. You will notice the ideological context of this battle when you look at the observers and those who take positions. So those who take positions with Palestine, on almost every matter, they take a position with Palestine. Those who take a position with Israel, on almost every matter, they take a position with Israel. It would have been important for the United Nations then to come in and to settle the matters, but that has also been difficult, again, because of the permanent position that the United States takes. It was this conflict, especially, and also the Cold War, that necessitated the formation of the non-aligned movement, whose conference Ghana gladly hosted in 1991 here in Accra. So that is where I'm guessing the minority position is coming from. Ghana was a very important member of the non-aligned movement. In those days, the non-aligned movement had to do mainly with the Cold War, but the Gaza conflict, the Israel-Palestinian conflict, was dividing the Cold War onto East and West. Till now, it does. So Russia, which has been on the left side of the Cold War, continues to support Palestine. Russia is with China. They continue to support Palestine. You're not sure where India stands. But these are ideological positions more than concept of two-state situation and all of that. So the difficulty in resolving the Gaza situation is that it is really ideological. And once it has become ideological, it might be useful for a country that has championed an allied movement like Ghana to remain in the middle whilst we sort of behind the scenes through ECOWAS or whichever organization to work these things out, because it is so polarizing that once you take a position, you cannot be non-aligned, you cannot be trusted on many things by this side or that side. And that is the wisdom that has underpinned the position that Ghana has taken for a very long time. Right now, the president took the position again on Gaza, but Ghana has recognized the state of Palestine since 1988. So that aspect of it is sorted. There's no ifs and buts about it. Should Palestine be a state? I mean, if you answer the question in a negative, what should the people who call themselves Palestinians, what should they do right now? And there's been a strong assertive self-determination conversations that has gone around the world over the last 10 years. Given all the self-determinations that have gone around the world, in fact, since the break of the Cold War, you have Czech Republic being divided into a few groups. You have Somaliland coming out of Somalia. You have Eritrea coming out of Ethiopia. So all of these things have happened in the world over the last 10, 15 years. How then do you answer a question of whether or not the people who consider themselves Palestinians should have a state? How do you answer that question in a negative? So, yes, recognizing Palestine as a state does not compromise Ghana's neutrality. That's really the point I'm making. So, because Palestine must be a state. So now today we have France and other people all recognizing Palestinian as a state. The critical issue is this two-state solution. There are theories on the American side which believe that even Yasser Arafat was not really for a two-state solution. There are people in Palestine who are not for a two-state solution. They think that the people in the Israel part were brought in 1948. They were not there. This is not their land. They were brought in 1948. So take them back to somewhere. We don't want them here. Something like that. There are firm opinions in Palestine like that, and there are radical opinions like that. And it is not an unpopular opinion. And then you have people in Israel who make their claim to the fact that we are stronger than them. They misbehave all the time. They are always throwing stones. They are not useful. So we don't want a two-state solution with them. That position is also there. So the two-state solution is not as simple as it is. And I can sum up by saying that given all the circumstances and given the historical role of the non-aligned movement, perhaps the position of Ghana should have remained non-aligned, whilst we have recognized the Palestinian state since 1988.
Honorable, by describing the events in Gaza in absolute terms and aligning the country explicitly with one side, the government risks compromising the delicate balance that has long safeguarded Ghana's credibility. And our tradition has been to call for peace, dialogue, and adherence to international law without interventions that may prejudice our ability to play a mediating role. That's what to quote the ranking member on foreign affairs in Parliament, that's what he says.
The ranking member got it totally wrong.
Why?
The United Nations Special Report says that what is happening in Gaza is a genocide. And Ghana has already re-echoed what the world body had said. We are living in a rule-based world that we have come to categorize certain crimes, certain activities as crimes against humanity. And we've laid down the rules of engagement in war. We have said that in war, in a war situation, you can't use starvation as an instrument of war. In a war situation, you can't target civilians. In a war situation, you can't bomb hospitals or schools. These are rules. They are rule-based, system. It's a rule-based system that we have put in place, and we've called it the laws of war. So when you flout these laws with impunity, then your actions should be condemned. To keep quiet in a situation like that is to be complicit in what Israel is doing. Yes, no one is questioning the two-state. No one says that Ghana is questioning the two-state solution to the problem in the Middle East, or Ghana is aligning to the two-state solution. Ghana aligned to that solution long ago because of our inherent history. We led the fight in liberating Africa from colonial rule. We know what human dignity is. That is why it has found expression in our constitution, which says that human dignity is inviolable. Because we know. So you cannot treat a human being in a manner that derogates from his essential character as a person. You can't. And Ghana, it will be remiss on the part of Ghana not to stand up against egregious violations of the fundamental rights of people living in Gaza. This conflict started from the Balfour Declaration in 1917, aggravated during the Second World War, when Israel and the Jews underwent severe persecution in Europe and extermination. Now, the world condemned that act. The Israelis made a case that it was because they were scattered around the world. That was why they were susceptible to persecution. The world powers then thought that it was important to settle Israel at a determined place so that they could protect them. Many considerations came, including the resettling of Jews in Uganda. But finally, they relied on the Old Testament towns of Samaria and Judea, which were initially inhabited by the early Jews, as a possible place to settle them. When they went to settle the Jews in Israel, the population there was 75% Christians and Arabs. But they settled them. And then they carved out a place for them. Now, what moral right will Israel have to say that after having settled in Israel, we do not want any country, and particularly Palestine, to exist with us? Because you were not there. The world rose up to its responsibility of protecting Israel, settled Israel, and made sure that they recognize the state of Israel. Now, what is happening in Israel? Today, as we speak, women and children are those who are bearing the brunt of the assault on Israel, on Palestine. Are women and children also combatants in war? Today, as we speak, ground troops are dislodging the people who were occupying that narrow strip called Gaza. People now do not even feel safe in moving. Ramallah and Gaza are now theaters of war. I mean, we need as a people to condemn this level of atrocity.
So, Inessa, what essentially you're saying is that the facts are clear, that Israel is suppressing and oppressing the people of Palestine. And this
not
is not
suppressing.
something...
Suppressing could mean, I mean, because we have already been told that Palestine was an open prison.
Yes, I want to be I just wanted to be diplomatic.
Okay,
yes,
that's
because
okay.
we're talking diplomatic. We're having a diplomatic conversation here. But the point you're saying is that Israel is in the wrong. And so Ghana does absolutely no wrong by taking sides and saying that you're wrong. Stop it.
Ghana is following what the UN has
it's
said.
consistent with what the UN
has said.
Okay.
Ghana did not use the word genocide until the UN special report said that what was happening in Israel was genocide.
Okay. So then, Paul, does that change your position?
No, not quite. But everything he said is correct. Yeah. But the Honorable Minister, I think you left a big part of the conversation out, the historical aspect of it. Yeah. When you settled in, Israel came in 1948 and they settled amongst the people. And then what happened thereafter, Moro? They settled amongst the people. There was peace. There was no problem. And then the famous 6-day war came up. So then one day the territories around Israel, Jordan and co., rose up against this small population that had been settled there by the United Nations. They rose up against them, and then they defended themselves. And since then, there's been several wars going on in that territory, and the trust is completely broken. These are the underpinnings of the crimes that are happening in Gaza today, where children are being killed, it's terrible, and women are being killed, and all of that. This is the historical context of this conflict. It is a major geopolitical and ideological conflict. It started with the occupied territories, Palestine, Lebanon, and all of these things, attacking Israel and wanting to exterminate them from that territory. Israel defended itself and was successful in defending itself because, of course, it has allies, United States and United Kingdom, and wars have gone on since the 70s. The UN peacekeeping forces have been there. I think they are still there, UNIFIL, where General Eskin and co were doing well for Ghana. So that's the foundation of the conflict. Trust is broken. Within the context of the broken trust, it's then an ideological situation. America will always stand one way, and this one will always stand the other way. Okay. So even the descriptions that the United Nations gives it, Israel will contend it as being influenced by ideology. Because even though it's the United Nations, they say there's genocide, and then Security Council says ceasefire, and America says, no, I will veto that. If it goes the other way against Gaza, Russia is on the Security Council, they may veto that.
Okay.
So in that kind of situation, it is always useful for a country like Ghana to remain in the position that we have been in, so that we do not run the risk of being ideologically colored. As for what is happening in Israel, in terms of people being killed, that it is terrible, it's terrible. But the expressions of what it is, their technical meanings within the context of international law. And it's almost as if you're accusing somebody of some war crimes here and there. And the question is the evidence and all of that. Yes, we see it on television. People are being killed. And the United Nations can say what it says. Israel will contend with them in the United Nations halls in New York and Geneva. But as for us, as an African country, we should have continued in the way that we were. Professor Mills was president of Ghana. There was something happening in Cote d'Ivoire just next door. And it had to do with the democracy of Cote d'Ivoire, elections and all of those things that have been very, very important to all the Millennium Development Agenda. But yeah, he was suggesting to Ghanaians that, look, we can always solve the Ivory Coast problem one way. We're not going to make any public statements against Laurent Gbagbo. That has always been the posturing of the Ghanaian government. So this one is quite different.
But Paul, Ghana is not playing a lesser role. South Africa was the first country in Africa to take what is happening in Israel to the World Court.
Okay.
To The Hague. And argued vociferously that what was happening in Israel was genocide. And the court upheld their position. South Africa was the first.
So the court ruling that was happening in Israel is genocide.
And that is why Netanyahu faces a threat of a war criminal. You understand?
This will not be the first time.
So what we are saying is that, and you talk about ideology.
Yes.
Just 2 days ago, Britain said they were recognizing the state of Palestine.
Yeah, that's very ideological.
No, Britain was at the forefront of establishing it.
No, but you are making my point, because the government in Britain is a Labour government. And if you look at the history of Labour governments in Britain, they have always been in the middle. Yeah.
Governing the architecture of government in Europe, I mean in Britain, is liberal democracy. It's a liberal democracy.
Yes, but the people in power are left Labour.
No, but they're liberal democracy. They're liberal democracy.
Yeah, you can say so.
So they respect rights of people and all those things. So yes, within the liberal framework.
No, recognizing Palestine is what the point you're making.
Within the liberal framework, they think that this is the way the government should be governed. Conservatism should not be the way to go. Okay, it's Labour.
Based on the last election.
Yes, based on the last election.
Okay, fair enough.
Okay, so that is the choice within a liberal system of government.
I agree with you. I have no problems with that. I'm saying that your reference to Britain as if Britain has changed its position might not be correct, because the government in Britain today is left-wing government, and they are going to be siding with the Palestinians one way or the other. Because it's an ideological battle. So when the Democrats are in power in America, you get something similar.
When you argue this way, then you bring in many questions. You open the bag. Now, in the American system, the governments have not always been the same.
No, that's what I'm saying. When Democrats are in power,
Democrats are in power. Republicans are not Democrats. Democrats are not Republicans.
Yeah, when Democrats are in power, it's better. It's always better for the Palestinian situation.
Right. Yeah, but
you saw the efforts that Bill Clinton made with Yasser Arafat. For instance, Yasser Arafat under Bill Clinton could fly into America, but under Donald Trump, the people in Abbas cannot fly
Mahmoud
to America.
Abbas has been denied visa because.
But that's what I'm saying. When the Democrats in power, when the Democrats are in power, it's very likely that they will not be denied visa.
But Trump is 48th or so president of the United States. Many presidents have come before him.
Yes, correct.
And none has ever refused the Mahmoud Abbas or the Palestinians from flying into the America to attend the UN General Assembly. This is the first time.
I don't think it's the first time. I think
this is the first time. This is actually the first time. That's why it attracted condemnation at the United Nations.
No, this is because the condemnation, I think, was because it sounded personal. Because he had personally criticized the President of the United States, he took a personal decision. I think that's where the condemnation is. But anyway, it's still an ideological conversation. So the point is that should Ghana step in such an ideological conversation?
When we have a platform like this, because when the Holocaust occurred, we said it was the problem of the Jews. Many of them were exterminated. When Rwanda occurred, we said it was a problem of Africa.
Right.
We did not condemn, and many people were killed. When Srebrenica occurred, we said it was a problem of that place. said it's ideological. Just like in Rwanda, we said ideological. And people were being killed like cockroaches. Now, when people violate the laws of nature, when people undermine our very foundation as humans, we need to condemn.
That has been condemned.
Because there is always a better way. That is why UN says that the UN Charter talks about pacific resolution of disputes.
No, that has been condemned by all. Everyone, even including pro-Israelis, have condemned the extent of killings going on in Gaza. But there's a whole geopolitical conversation about what a country should do. That's where it looks like our two political parties are divided.
He takes on the General Assembly for not condemning what's happening in Gaza. And he says that they've been playing hide and seek and playing with
President
words.
Mahama.
Yes. So let me read that portion. He says that to demonstrate Africa's fast-growing global influence, President Mahama did not shy away from addressing ongoing global conflict. On the situation in Gaza, he departed from what he called the General Assembly's habit of playing hide and seek with language. It doesn't matter what you call it. If it looks like a duck, swims like a duck, and quacks like a duck, well, then it must be a duck. The crimes in Gaza must stop, he stated, advocating a two-state solution as a reprieve for innocent Palestinians. Of course, he also drew attention to what's happening in Sudan and so on. So, quite clearly, he's taking on and criticizing the General Assembly for not speaking loudly enough about what's happening in Gaza. Could it be also because of these ideological, differences that we see, and that's why the General Assembly has been a bit diplomatic about what's happening in Gaza?
It can only be that.
The General Assembly is a talking shop. It's a talking shop.
Okay.
Yeah, but they still should have said something about it.
But they do nothing. We go and vent our frustrations and aspirations.
Yeah.
Okay? That's what we do at the General Assembly. The real power lies with the permanent Security Council.
You suggested that the president should have directed his criticism to the Security Council?
No, I'm saying that. So what the president is actually saying is that for a very long time, the General Assembly, the members of the General Assembly, the countries, were not forthcoming with condemnation of atrocities in countries. And that's why he was condemning, that's why he was lamenting and venting his frustration. But you could see that in this General Assembly, it's different. Many countries have actually taken it to the General Assembly and said, look, we need to stand up, we need to be united against atrocities happening all over the world.
Okay. All right.
That's what you were saying.
Okay.
Well.
So we'll take a break. When we come back, we'll look at the 14 West African nationals who are in town. Some of them have actually been deported to some other countries, but some of them are still in town. We're expecting 40 more. The minority has a big problem with what they believe is the way we've gone about the deal with America. And they believe that this must go to Parliament, for Parliament to ratify it. Otherwise, it should have been null and void. We'll take a short break. When we come back, we'll deal with that issue, that vexed issue. This is Good Morning Ghana on Metro Television. Please stay with us.
Are you a headmaster, headmistress, parent, teacher, or an educator looking for high-quality textbooks for preschool, primary, and junior high school students? Look no further than Advocate Publishing Company. Advocate Publishing Company is a leading publisher of educational materials in Ghana that publishes very engaging, interactive, and comprehensive textbooks that meet the needs of students, teachers, and parents. Our textbooks are thoroughly published to make learning fun and easy. They are also designed to stimulate critical thinking, problem solving, and creativity in students. Make Advocate Publishing your preferred choice for all your educational needs. Explore our range of textbooks and educational resources. Visit us at the old GNTC yard near Kingsway, Accra. You can contact us on 0503 786 776 or 02408 06354, also 0531 600360, and connect with us on Instagram, X, and Facebook at Advo Publishing. Don't settle for less. Choose the best. Advocate Publishing Company, empowering young minds one textbook at a time. Thinking publishing, think Advocate Publishing.
What the iPhone, Papa? You were home.
So open iPhone's accessories papa dia menhwe baby
ba EBA phones and accessories.
Sebani EBA, yeton iPhones any home accessories. iPhone 50 XL cost 16 Pro Max. Accessories ye wo charger, AirPods, any iPhone home akadie nyina. Yanoma ye ni sikapudu e de beto iPhone. Say ya nkrankre, boja, and na say aboye juma your phone nyina. For 40% be the iPhone bia ope. Na ni aka no, wo de bosome miensa. Etua ne nkakra. E kwan ya obefa so de achi enyi. Dial *713*5571#. Oba, sheno so say wo de wo Ghana card. Ene nia e kire say wo ye adwuma. Hwehwe ye kire kwan e wo circle mo. Ene tiptoe line ni modern photos enchen ho a. Afein so, say wo ba American mall, ye ni odo rice ene di nhwani. Kuma senso ye wo edum Central Prisons runabout ejekum abunsan ni mo. Freyen e wo numbers na ebu screen ni so no. EBA phones, no hassle cra.
In life, choice is good, but choice plus safety is way better. Your safety and comfort is paramount. Under the cylinder recirculation model, you can buy LPG in a safe environment. All cylinders are inspected and maintained to the best safety standards, so your safety is assured. Just take your empty cylinder to the nearest exchange point and swap it for a filled cylinder. Different cylinder sizes will be available to meet your pocket size. Imagine cooking in a smoke-free environment. This will improve the health and well-being of you and your family. Choose LPG in a safer model of distribution. Cylinder recirculation model. Securing your safety. Creating more jobs. A message from the National Petroleum Authority under the patronage of the Ministry of Energy.
Promo! Your most preferred estate partner is given a massive 20% discount on land sale. Yes, for our Founders Day promo, Estate Masters is offering this special discount for outright purchases up till the end of September 2025. This cuts across all our available sites, and upon purchase, you get to enjoy a free indenture and free site plan. Our site visits are also free, so rush now and secure a plot of land while this offer lasts. Estate Masters, your most preferred estate partner.
Wabedum tamaso. Hey, J. Watch it, na learning. Missy, watch and learn. Makwaya mabesisia. Abozege. Akache say no ya konate and the mod drink woman. Hey. But I tell me. Oh, sorry. She knew her old days. Eji. Dabio, baby wom. Ready? Hey, baby wom. Ah, Eji. I'll cause some discomfort. Sorry, well, uncle, where would the dad? Why your funeral? At to phone for Aerofield Trading. Sorry, it killed them all.
No mum share Nanda Daya was mosquito call is to do a munumu. Na say spray with them, sir. Chaisima a dronum and sana co dynamo.
And Kratoi FDA Ajatum.
You're still watching Good Morning Ghana on Metro Television. The show is also live on 94.1 FM. I do have Paula Domotri, is host of Good Evening Ghana, and also a journalist, and he's here with us. And the Honorable Inusa Fuseni, former MP for Tamale Central, and also former Minister for Lands and Natural Resources. Now, I talked about, before we took that little short breather, I raised the issue about the ongoing, what you call debate as to whether the agreements that we have the United States of America, based on which some 14 West African nationals were deported to Ghana, was actually kosher. You know, i.e., should it have gone to Parliament for Parliament to ratify before it becomes in force, or this particular MOU, as we're talking about, is not it's different from what the courts have indicated it should be. The minority held a press conference a few days ago, and they're asking that agreement that we have with the United States of America has two things. Either you bring it to Parliament or throw it away. And the Foreign Affairs Minister himself has insisted that this MOU, as we see it, is not, it's different from what the Gitmotu ruling, which was delivered by Sofia Kufu, was actually suggesting. So there's been that back and forth about it. So I don't know where you stand on this, Honorable Eunice Afusini, with this 14, and we're actually expecting 40 more to join us sometime. What do you, now before you go ahead, I want us to play these videos before we start our conversation. Let's watch this.
Ghana took the principled and humanitarian decision to accept the limited number of West African nationals deported from the United States under exceptional circumstances, in line with Ghana's long-standing Pan-African ideals and unwavering commitment to regional solidarity. Let me emphasize that under this understanding with the United States, Ghana must first independently vet the background of those the U.S. intends to deport, to first satisfy ourselves that they do not pose any threat to the security of our country and that they cannot harm our citizens. We have put in place strict safeguards to ensure that convicted, hardened criminals cannot be brought into our country under this understanding. The Mahama administration will never compromise the safety and well-being of Ghanaians. It is important to stress and to state unequivocally that Ghana has not received and does not seek any financial compensation or material benefit in relation to this understanding. Our decision is grounded purely on humanitarian principle and Pan-African solidarity, to offer temporary refuge where needed, to prevent further human suffering, and to maintain our credibility as a responsible regional actor. Ghana's decision must be understood as an act of Pan-African empathy. The government of Ghana took the principled and humanitarian decision.
All right. So watching Good Morning Ghana Metro Television. Now, Honorable Afusini, first of all, what are your general thoughts about this matter? There are a number of questions that I want to ask, but your initial thoughts before I raise the issues that I want to raise.
Simple. Informed by Article 75 of the Constitution.
Okay.
And the Vienna Convention on the Law on Treaties. Now, a treaty must be written, must impose certain obligations, and must come within the general context of what a treaty is known for.
It must come within the general
context of what a treaty is known for. Okay. Under Article 1, under the law on treaties, the Vienna Convention.
Okay.
It appears to me that this is not one of such documents that can be defined as a treaty. Now, so in my view, the requirement for the understanding reached between the government of Ghana and the United States to be placed before Parliament appeared to me, with the greatest respect to Parliament, to be misplaced. Now, because the Ghana, as a West African country, is part of the ECOWAS group of nations that allows for our citizens to roam freely within our respective countries for 90 days. So if those people were not forcefully removed from the United States, they could simply have bought tickets from the United States, take a plane, land in Ghana, and they'll be entitled to stay in Ghana for 90 days, without more. And so that is what we have signed to as a country. And that is what the minister was referring to. These are our Pan-African credentials. We want to ensure the free movement of people and goods in our countries. Now, we are faced with a situation where the government of the United States of America is forcibly removing people who have overstayed in their country back to their respective countries. And I've contacted Ghana to see whether Ghana could be a receptacle for the onward journey of those people to their respective countries. I think that it is important for us to understand that because these people are West African nationals, we owe an obligation to them to reduce their suffering and inconvenience in the United States of America in terms of the deportation. And that if the people come to Ghana, or if the United States depose those people to Ghana, Ghana will accept them on the understanding that one, those people being West African nationals have a right to be in our jurisdiction for 90 days. And then they will continue to their countries. If those people arrive and are unable to purchase or facilitate their movements, the government of Ghana will take steps by contacting their respective embassies to say that our welcome to this country is for a 90-day period. And so those countries, the embassies of those countries should buy tickets for them to continue to their respective countries. But principally, we have a duty under the ECOWAS protocols to keep these people in this country or allow entry of West African nationals to this country for 90 days. And you don't need Parliament to approve because we've already approved that ECOWAS treaty. We've approved that. So you don't need Parliament to approve for a West African national to come to this country. You don't need Parliament. So MOUs are different. As a minister, we signed MOUs with people who came to transact business with us in the ministries. But immediately you enter into a contract with a foreign national, that contract has to be laid before Parliament for ratification. Because you are binding the states to the obligations stated in that contract. MOUs are to the best of intentions, statement of intention, to the best of interpretation, statement of intention, that we have an intention to do X, Y, Z. Now, so if we stretch the argument too far, it becomes absurd. One, how does it become absurd? I've just demonstrated to you that if those people who had money to buy their tickets and freely leave United States of America, transit in Ghana for 90 days before they got to their respective countries, you would not need any understanding with the United States of America because we have already signed that agreement. We have already indicated our willingness to allow West African nationals to be in our country for 90 days. If the United States of America is removing West African nationals to Ghana with the understanding that Ghana will facilitate their movement to their respective countries, under our obligation, under the ECOWAS Charter, we are obliged to provide refuge for those people for a period of 90 days to enable them to return to their countries. And this is not within the context of the Vienna Convention and within the Article 75 of our Constitution. MOUs are not contemplated as instruments to be laid before Parliament. So this is more political.
Right.
Political bickering than really actual law.
A number of questions, Honorable. This MOU, this Memorandum of Understanding, as we speak, we don't know whether this Memorandum of Understanding is actually verbal or is documented or written. We don't know. Actually, before we started this program, I was having a conversation with my boss, Annie Efuampofo. And she actually drew my attention to some information that she had. What I didn't ask her was whether she actually spoke to Ablakwa or not. But she indicates to me that there wasn't, as far as she's concerned, from interaction with whoever she spoke to, whether it was someone who is black or whoever, she didn't get the impression that there was a memorandum of understanding, strictly speaking, a typical memorandum of MOU. And that this is just basically a setting understanding that we must have, just like you said, as a West African country, and basically the Mecca of Africa, we are tolerant to everybody that, look, if people have issues and they are being brought to Africa, we take them. Of course, you can't take away whatever conversation John Mahama may have had with the American authorities, whether President Donald Trump, we don't know. But it's not very clear whether there's an MOU, strictly speaking, as in written or even a verbal agreement. That's number one. And if it is there, what stops the government from making it available to the public, for all of us to scrutinize what contains in that MOU? Because at the end of the day, we ought to be able to find out what is in it for us as Ghanaians. Yes, we've heard the foreign affairs minister say that, well, America is not giving us any money, and there's no any kind of, any payment or any gratuities or anything of a sort. But this is purely humanitarian, and it is a spirit of Pan-Africanism. No problem. But we ought to have an interest in the spirit of international relations and diplomacy. Everybody must have an interest. What's the American interest? The American interest, especially under Donald Trump, is purely transactional. It's America first. And we know the president that America has today. He's purely transactional. So there are people who suspect that there must definitely be something in it for Ghana. That's question number one. So issues about if there's an agreement, can we see it? If there's no agreement, we should be told. And what are we getting in return? So that's two in one. The second question is this, that the Margaret Banfo matter with Nanabi, who's not a national organizer of the MPP, when they went to court about this the Gitmo 2 matter, 2015, all the way to 2017, when that seminal, ruling was given by Sophia Kufu. Wasn't it very clear that any form of agreement, to the extent that it places an obligation on Ghana, must go to court? So that we shouldn't be looking at the form, but we should be looking at the substance of it. So the form here will be either as a treaty, an MOU, or whatever it is. But the substance of that ruling was that for as long as there's some agreement between us and another country, and to the extent that we, Ghanaians, would have to use our taxpayers' money to pay in whatever form, Parliament must be made aware. In any case, we have a majority in Parliament. So how do you respond to these two questions? I have more.
So
the first two.
So the first one is
Paul, I'll come to you. Don't worry.
The first one is that Gitmo 2 were not West African nationals.
Okay.
The second answer to your question is that Gitmo 2 concerned and touched on the security of the nation, because those people had been arrested by the United States as alleged terrorists, and they were being deported to Ghana. So everybody was concerned that where will Ghana receive Gitmo 2 without telling us? Because they were not principally Ghanaians. This is remarkably different. These are West African nationals being forcibly removed from America, not because of crimes, but because they had overstayed their welcome in the United States of America. They went there on visas, which visas have long expired, and they were still there. Ghana is not benefiting, because Ghana is not a country that will profit from the misery of our own West African nationals. So in monetary terms, Ghana is not benefiting, because we think that we have an obligation, a duty, to lessen the pain and inconvenience of fellow West African citizens. Ghana might benefit in other respects, because soft power is still a benefit.
Yeah.
So if we have been able to extend that courtesy to the United States and say, look, well, if you are deporting those people to their respective countries through Ghana, what do we also gain? We might gain in other respects, but not monetary consideration, because we do not think that we need to profit from the misery of West African nationals. Now, why this agreement is not in Parliament. I've already explained. This is not an agreement within the contemplation of Article 75. No. If not, it will lead to an amalgam. Presidents talk to each other every day. Presidents make requests every day. Some of the requests we don't get to hear because they are done without any fuss. But they make requests. So you are saying that every president, when they make a phone call and make a request, we should send the request to Parliament. Then recently, the FBI came to Ghana and arrested people who had engaged in crime. You know, the basis upon their arrival in Ghana was a multilateral agreement that we had with the security establishments of other countries, mutual cooperation. And they came. Did we send that agreement to Parliament? Did we? So, I mean, if we say that every agreement will be sent to Parliament, we might be teetering on the edge of absurdity. Because there are many agreements that don't just go to Parliament. But where agreements are couched in the nature of the Vienna Convention, that its ramification will extend beyond one government. Its impact on the nation could be significant. We must send the agreement to the people of the country. And the only way to do it through the system that we have is to send the agreement to Parliament. For the people to know that we are committing the nation to these specific things to do. Okay? Because we can't default on that agreement because of the laws on treaty. Mm. And one general thing that we all know as lawyers is pacta sunt servanda. Agreements must be respected.
Okay. This is in Latin.
Latin. Agreements must be respected. So this is not that type of agreement.
Fair enough.
This is not that type of agreement.
That's fine. The agreement.
And so every day, every week, every month, governments communicate with their colleague heads of states.
No problem.
Through note verbal and others.
So where is the MOU?
Who says it was a written MOU?
Okay, so we don't know.
Who says? Who has told you? No, I'm assuming.
No, I'm assuming.
So if you assume, you make an ass of yourself and me.
Okay.
Because we don't know. It could just be that a phone call. It could be a phone call. So I don't know whether to reveal it. Ghana had an issue with Ivory Coast. We were trying to solve the issue over the distance. And then the president spoke. President John Mahama spoke to Ouattara. And they all agreed that the best way to resolve that issue was to send it to the international court, international fora, the law of the seas. And that agreement, that they arrived at an agreement that, look, because we are neighbors and we are West Africans, we shouldn't escalate this problem. Let's all commit to be bound by what the tribunal established under the law of the seas will say in respect of our various our two territories.
The minority...
But when they had the call, I was sitting there when the president was talking to Ouattara.
Right.
And that was an agreement. That didn't come to Parliament, did it?
Okay. But the minorities of the view that even if it was an oral agreement, I mean, you lawyers talk about...
a request.
Well, it says a request if somebody makes a request and somebody agrees,
then it becomes
law 101. It becomes an agreement, isn't it?
Okay.
Or becomes a contract. That's
an agreement.
Agreement.
Yes.
Not a contract specifically, but agreement.
Because not all contracts, when you stop a car and enter the car to take you to Jogulo, it's an agreement.
It's an agreement.
Okay. It's a contract of a sort.
Of a contract of a sort, yes. So my point is that this conversation that presumably ensued between the president and Donald Trump, shouldn't we be told as Ghanaians what the nature of that conversation is in order to assuage the feelings of, or the fears that the minority has that perhaps there's something in it that we don't know. Yes, it may, like you said, it doesn't have to be tangible, but there may be intangible benefits.
Yes.
Don't you think that at least Ghanaians, maybe through the Foreign Affairs Minister, tell us, well, the man called President Mahama, and this is what they talked about.
What I'm saying, what you should know is that...
leading up to why we accepted 14 plus 40, which is 54.
54,
Yes.
and there could be more.
Yeah, there could be more. You're right.
Okay, and these are West African nationals.
Yes.
No one is talking about the number of Ghanaians who have been brought back.
Yes.
Huh?
Yes, we're expecting 166.
Yes, that one we don't send it to.
Yeah, they are Ghanaians.
Yeah.
They
So
are Ghanaians.
we have an obligation.
Yeah, but they're Ghanaians.
That obligation extends to.
These are our people.
They are no, but the West African nationals are also our people.
No, but they are not Ghanaians.
But they are our people. Now, and then the president had absolutely nothing to hide. You recall that this matter became an issue.
Yeah.
When the journalist asked him a question at the media encounter. And the president was forthright and said, look, this is what happened. We received a request from the United States that they were sending West African nationals to their countries, but they wanted to use Ghana as a transit. And we examined it. We saw nothing absolutely wrong. We believe that we have a duty to ensure that West African nationals dealt with conveniently, and if they come to this country, they will go to their home countries. Those who cannot go will ensure that we get their embassies to buy tickets for them to go.
Right.
Because of the understanding that the protocol regulates our treatment of West African nationals.
Okay.
And so this is what we did.
Okay.
And so, and again, let me state, there's absolutely no monetary benefit. It will be immoral for a country like ours to benefit from the sufferings and plight of West African nationals.
Okay.
We still are giving vet to the Pan-African concept.
Okay.
That, look, we are one people with one West African enclave and a common destiny.
Okay.
That there must be free movement of people within our sub-region. And that if anybody is in America and has the money to buy his ticket and lands in Ghana, he can continue to this country of origin.
And finally, these 14 nationals, yes, we have an update. I mean, I think about 6 of them have been sent to Togo. They've been deported to Togo.
They've gone back to their country, not that deported. They've
Well,
gone
somebody
back.
would definitely...
They were put in their bars.
Yes, and sent to Togo.
Yes.
So that leaves us with about, what? If your 6 is gone, that leaves us with
about 8.
About 8 or so.
Yeah,
okay.
and one of them or 2 are Gambians.
Okay. Why weren't they deported directly to their countries? Why didn't their government accept them?
There could be flight issues. So if there's no direct flight from America, and then
no, but you just advised me to move away from conjecture.
No, I don't know of any direct flight from America to Togo. I don't know of any direct flight.
Okay.
So I advise you to move away. But I'm saying that there could be many issues.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
I mean, even the friendliness, the kind of relationship between governments. I mean, you exploit, if you want to beg for a favor.
Isn't there direct flight from America to Nigeria?
What I'm saying that if you want to ask for a favor from your numerous friends.
Yes.
You look at somebody who is well disposed to meeting a request from you before you ask. You don't ask from a friend who might not be forthcoming.
You mean there's no flights directly from America to Nigeria?
There could be.
To Togo?
There could be, but
to Gambia?
Maybe Ghana is more amenable.
Okay.
Maybe the situation. And you know, America has problems with Nigeria.
Yeah,
they have problems with Nigeria. So,
okay.
So clearly, I mean, so Ghana, we are problem-free, and our relationship with America is on a different level.
Because the fear is that some people feel it may cause some kind of a diplomatic row. Subtle, it may be between us and other West African neighbors.
There's only a political row. There's no diplomatic row.
All right.
Everybody knows that if your citizen of your country is being deported back to your country, you have a duty to accept that citizen. Okay? Now, if a West African national is within your territory, you have a duty to protect that West African national within the context of the ECOWAS protocols. Okay. And so Ghana is living up to its obligation under the ECOWAS protocol.
Okay. Oh, in the spirit of good neighborliness, these are West African nationals. The ECOWAS protocols are clear. They have the right of movement of goods and services. These are basically our own people. So really, what do you think is the fuss about this West African nationals who are not hardened criminals, who just been deported to us for onward deportation to some other Africa, to their respective homes? What's the big deal?
I think the problem with this matter has been how the media has covered this situation.
Okay.
Because is it not worrying that we spend so much time covering this government bringing in people deported from America, and all the questions are legitimate. But we spend so much time at the expense of covering the Ghanaians who are stranded in Côte d'Ivoire. 13,000 people are stranded in Côte d'Ivoire. This government has let 13,000 people stay in Côte d'Ivoire. We are not covering it on a daily basis. We don't have an Afro barometer that's telling us every day how many have come home, how many have not come home. And the government itself is leading this agenda without even reporting to us what's happening in Côte d'Ivoire. It took a while for media to shout on Okuyeto Ablakwa for him to even visit them. Then he comes back with some information that has been challenged, that is wrong, and all of that. And then we are here talking about Gitmo repeating itself and all of that. All of that is okay. But our media must have a certain focus on what is the most important thing to the Ghanaian. It's very important. What is the most important thing to the Ghanaian? Ghanaians are stranded in Côte d'Ivoire. They fled Baku to go to Côte d'Ivoire. They are sitting there. There's peace in Accra, there's peace in Takoradi, there's peace everywhere, down south, up to at least Kintampo. And we will not find spaces for them here. There's NADMO in Ghana. We can't find spaces for 13,000 people who are stranded in Baku. The government has a Ministry of Interior, under which NADMO works. The government has a Ministry of Defense. The government has a Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And all these things are not happening, and they are justifying why 13 people have come and why they've sent them to Togo in a bus. I think there's some dereliction of duty here on both the sides of the government and the media. It's a clear dereliction of duty. And we must refocus and let Ghanaians feel the essence of our government.
The Foreign Affairs Minister tells us that he's been to Ivory Coast. He's interacted with them. He's talked them into coming back to Ghana. But they're saying that, that he can't force them into Ghana. At the end of the day, it's about the conflict, and things have improved. So it's not a case of...
So the story is dead now.
Well, it's not dead.
But the people are still in Ivory Coast.
Yes, but why are they there?
But what did he present to them? What did he present? What offer did he make them?
Items.
No, what offer did he make them in terms of their return to Ghana? That's what will determine whether they will say, what you are telling me is impressive, is better than what I have here, so I'll go.
Okay.
Yeah, so he didn't disclose to us what he told them. The foreign minister should have told the media the offers he made to those people. But if you come and tell us that I spoke to them, and they said they won't come. I mean, what are you talking about? The greatest of respect.
That's fine.
That's not how foreign ministers talk. And I spoke to them, they said they won't come. What is that? He must have given them an offer. It must have been a cabinet decision. The government is working correctly. It's a cabinet decision. He sent us an emissary, go and offer them so and so. The military are involved. Everybody is involved. You go there, they can see the military with you. There's a plane waiting to bring you back to this place. When you come to this place, this is how your life will be like. And it's all paid for by the government of Ghana because you're Ghanaian. If you make them an offer like that, they will come. But if you don't, you tell them, you are urging them that the conflict will be over, so they should go back.
The Foreign Affairs Minister is also saying that he's trying to be careful not to come across as though he does not appreciate what Ivory Coast is doing for Ghana. Remember in 2010, we did the same for Ivory Coast. So he tells us that it's a very tricky path to traverse. So you want your people to come back home, but you also don't want to come across as though you're rushing them back home because you do not appreciate the fact that Ivory Coast is taking very good care of your people.
I don't understand what diplomatic context this is. I cannot appreciate that diplomatic context. Ivory Coast is spending its taxpayers' money on keeping Ghanaians. Because of ECOWAS and the good Lebanese, they will do so because those Ghanaians are at peril.
Yeah.
Yes, they will do that. Ivory Coast will never be offended. I can't see the situation in which Ivory Coast will be offended if you quickly come in and say that, oh, thank you very much, I'm taking them back home. What is I don't get this. Where is the offense? What diplomatic language is that?
The people have the right to decide where they want to live.
Yeah,
they want to be in Ivory Coast.
Yes, no problem. I'm saying that take yourself, myself, any other person as an instance. You live in Ghana. then there's conflicts. You go to Ivory Coast, and you prefer to live in Ivory Coast.
Maybe.
I mean, it doesn't really add up. I mean, there's even a language barrier and all of that. So it doesn't really add up. It is the offer that the government is making to them, or whether there's been an offer made to them at all. And the fact that the government is not focusing on that problem and is now dealing with some, America has deported somebody, and the government has misled the media to focus on that rather. Which is not critical to any Ghanaian's livelihood.
But
these are livelihoods that are being perished in Cote
But that may
d'Ivoire.
not be entirely accurate. When John Mahama said that at the media press, it didn't end there because you know the media. There was follow-up questions. And then the Foreign Affairs Minister went on a platform and the matter came up and the minority has held a press conference and it's getting everybody talking about it. So, I mean, how then do you blame the government for sustaining this conversation or this narrative?
Yeah, because the government have not given us a daily report on what's happening to Ghanaians there.
Which is fair.
That is what we need. If the government were giving us a daily report on what's happening to Ghanaians there, the media will focus on that.
Yes, but I'm saying that the earlier comment you made about the government deliberately sustaining this conversation, I'm saying that may not necessarily...
Which was sustaining the foreign affairs conversation.
Which is the West African...
The American conversation. Yes, but it's the government that's leading the news. So when the government goes, the minority will follow and then the media follows.
How?
But that's how news is. It's the government that leads the news.
Oh, I'm saying that. Someone asked a question.
At the press conference.
At the press conference.
Yes.
The president responds to that or answers that question. And then obviously gets the Ghanaian media talking because we're asking legitimate questions as a follow-up to what the president said.
No, but the matter was in the news before the press conference.
Yes, so that's why somebody asked the
question. Yes.
And then subsequently, you have the Foreign Affairs Minister ongoing on some other platforms to throw some more light. On the matter.
Yeah, why are you throwing more light? At that time, were there Ghanaians in Cote d'Ivoire?
No, because the journalists were asking him the question.
But that's the point
you're asking him not to respond.
But you're making my point. You're making my point.
No, so
President talks about
it.
The Foreign Affairs Minister is on a media trail.
Yes.
Discussing the same thing. He's not going on a media trail. No, he's not going on a media trail talking about Ghanaians in Cote d'Ivoire.
No,
he's not doing that.
He talked about
it. He's talking about something else.
No,
and then the media followed. So he talked about both.
No, he talked about his trip to
no, so you're talking. So he says his media trail. He talked about both. He talked about the West Africa and this one.
Yeah. Comprehensively.
Yes, but he doesn't give us an update, and the two are not the same. So even talking about it as both is not correct. There's one that is more critical, very, very critical. It's not the same as another person from another country. This is has been occasioned by some negligence of our security system.
Right.
The people who have left, they left because of some negligence of the security system that now requires them to leave the country. So that's a critical matter. You don't compare that to Ghana making a diplomatic decision to collect people that America is deporting, and all that is fine, humanitarian. But I'm saying that the Foreign Affairs Minister predicates this their American thing on the word he calls humanitarianism.
Yeah.
And that shocks me because the humanitarianism should first be applied to Ghanaians who have been displaced by war. That's where the humanitarianism, charity begins at home. That's where the humanitarianism must apply, not the humanitarianism applying to people that are coming from America. I think it's quite disappointing the way we're handling these conflicts and then how we're handling Ghanaians who have fled.
All right. Okay, so Paul doesn't want to talk a lot say much about this West African national state, but let's move on to some other issue. Paul, it's a matter which I just find quite interesting. Of course, it's not entirely new, but it appears as it's reared its head again, and it has to do with the Ghana Bar Association. The Ghana Bar Association is, well, let me put it this way: there's actually a new baby in town, and that new baby is called the Ghana Law Society. This Ghana Law Society is urging lawyers who have serious concerns with the Ghana Bar Association to join them, because apparently there are some lawyers who feel that the Ghana Bar Association is not championing their cause. The Ghana Bar Association is on its own frolic, is doing its own thing. In fact, there are some persons, in fact, to be more specific, I've heard Abraham Amaliba, who is a strong member of the NDC's legal team, say that the Ghana Bar Association oftentimes it is aligning its position with that of the MPP, and that persons who are lawyers who are members of the association don't get a footing. You know, nobody listens to them, nobody takes their advice, and so on and so forth. And so he has formed a new group, association called the Ghana Law Society. And they've paid a courtesy call on the acting CJ, And I'm talking about Justice Bafo Boni. Now, today's insight captures the story. So the Ghana Law Society yesterday hailed the re-emergence of judicial independence under acting Chief Justice Bafo Boni, who is now the Chief Justice nominee of Ghana. According to the legal fraternity, a few months after Justice Bafo Boni was appointed into acting capacity as Chief Justice, has seen renewed hope in the country's justice delivery and its independence. Lawyer Samuel Atukwekwe, General Secretary of the Ghana Law Society, made the comment when he, along with the president of the organization and scores of its founding members, such as lawyer Kojoga Adawudu, lawyer Abraham Amaleba, and among others, paid a courtesy call on his acting Chief Justice to officially congratulate him on his nomination as Chief Justice, and this also officially introduce the organization to him. Now, it says, having been in existence since 2022, the Ghana Law Society places fullest support to the acting Chief Justice as head of the judiciary, while reaffirming its commitment to deepening democracy and strengthening the justice system. Lawyer Sam Atuku explained that the association, incorporated in 2022, now boasts of a membership of more than 500 lawyers. He said the society was not set up to rival the Ghana Bar Association, but rather to complement its efforts in promoting justice delivery and defending Ghana's democracy. Our constitution guarantees freedom of association, and with over 7,000 lawyers in the country, our body alone cannot meet the needs of all practitioners. We are not here to fight or challenge the bar, but to support the judiciary and help our justice system flourish. Now, Bafo Boni says, as we recall that, okay. So that's it. I'm going to pick up this Ghana Law Society. I mean, are you a member? Honorable, are you a member of the Ghana Law Society?
No, I just heard about it this morning.
Oh, they've been around since 2022?
No, then I'm not.
You're not aware of them? Okay.
I'm a fully paid up member of the Ghana Bar
Association. And so shall it remain? You want to leave the Ghana Bar Association and join?
Well, so it's a new organization, so they need to approach me and sell their vision to me.
Okay.
And I won't join it by reason of association.
Okay.
The fact that most of those who are in that group are associated with me in other respects.
Okay, so
they need to approach me.
Okay, so let's do this. Let's take a short break. When we come back, we'll wrap up on this matter briefly, because there's some other issues with NLA and so on. So please join us.
Various flavors. Ubenya ayako. Ubenya nemchie. Yedugu jollof muma emu yede. Ubenya yedugu nkwemu. Yedugu froyemu. Ho nako pebito. Na ema weduane enyede. Unyeminia. Yenkoni yonkonko tie nyankofo eka.
Utando ye communication ni all enjoy oduba. That Samu spices. One in the essence no pie. Samu spices in a sabi daddy so say. Samu spices. Samu spices. Nyama chicken.
Samu spices.
In Sanaka in Ketwa, measure 10 grams. Yawa chicken, spaghetti, garlic and ginger, stew, and jollof, and the flavors alpha bebre.
Samu spices. Yes, Saka.
FDIJ jadien kratoyatu.
In my line of work, a confident smile is everything. Kale Charcoal Toothpaste keeps me on top of my game and ensures my smile is always radiant and bright.
With the tiring nature of my job, we spend several hours under the scorching sun. To keep our teeth white and our breath fresh all the time, we use none other than Kale Charcoal Toothpaste. Kale Charcoal Toothpaste. You're on a kessie and in a kit one.
Samayo kendini, ehube here, semecha sapapadia to amame manfo. Kale Charcoal's natural ingredients, and a bomb is seho buying.
ɛma ne swen ne san so mama hotoso ɛwɔ bedwa mu.
Kel Charcoal Toothpaste. Choose Kel Charcoal Toothpaste for anti-cavity, whiter teeth, and fresher breath all day. Available in 80 gram and 150 gram. Grab yours today.
Kel, happy smile. This advert is FDA approved.
Yes, next. Hey, Nadia Benson,
Me didn't tum. Mr. Femi Kalika, just call me cockroach. Now, Mr. Femi once now.
Hey, that's you. Improve car. Yeah. Captain was key to double the action. Me did sasso spray. Mr. Femi sasso quell. Yeah, go to my sasso.
Come tum preko.
The law binds us all, and the law is the law is the law.
No matter how many noises are made, the law is the law.
The law binds us all, and the law is the law is the law. Those who said, and the law is the law, did not complete the sentence. The law is the law is the law. That is the sentence.
You're still watching Good Morning Ghana on Metro Television. My name is Awudu Moro. I'm here with Paula Dumotre, host of Good Evening Ghana, and also lawyer Inusa Husseini, former MP for Tamale Central and former Minister for Lands and Natural Resources. Let me read some messages that some of you have sent us, and then we can get on with our next conversation. Now, Marco Joboafo, all the way from the United States, he's a regular viewer of the show. He says, hello, bro. Ethiopian Airlines flies direct from New York to Lome. Delta Airlines also flies direct to Lagos from Atlanta. Please tell Honorable Inusa, cheers, Mark, USA. Now, this one says that, so Mancha Bruce is a lecturer, is it Takrady Polytechnic University? It says, in endeavoring to furnish a durable and substantive resolution to the conflict between Israel and Gaza, the United Nations ought to duly consider the adversities Israel has endured from its neighbors, particularly via Hamas. Imposing a settlement upon Israel would likely prove ineffectual. This is an ideological warfare. Consequently, John Mahama must exercise considerable diplomacy, emulating the approaches of esteemed predecessors such as Jerry Rawlings, J. Kufuor, J. Mills, and Nana Akufo-Addo. In navigating this complex matter, Ghana must not be ideologically colored. Mancha Bruce II from Takrady. And then this one here from quite a number of messages. Now I have to. Okay. So Elijah Hamza says that from Pet Farm says, good morning, my brother. Truth be told, President Mahama made us Ghanaians and for that matter Africans proud yesterday at the 80th UN General Assembly. He was spot on, and he spoke the minds of Africans yesterday. And I'm sure President Nkrumah and other Pan-Africanists will all be happy in their graves. I was also particularly happy to see that 142 countries voted in support of Palestinian state. 10 countries against, and only 12 countries abstained. It was clear at the summit that agreed that what is happening in Palestine is nothing but genocide and must be condemned by all, meaning citizens. I hope Honorable Abu-Jinapo and his MP functionaries will reverse their notes by now and apologize to Okujeto Ablakwa. Samuel Brian Boabing from, I believe, Awoshi, he says, this is nothing new. Mr. Ward Brew and my good friend, Mr. Martin Amidu, started something similar years ago, but it failed. And this LSG is going to fail big time. He sensed that. But he also says, more, good morning. No credible world leader supports a Palestinian state without first condemning the events of 7th October, demanding the return of every hostage and dead or alive, and affirming the security of the Jewish people. The greatest mistake in foreign policy is to play to the gallery. President Mahama is known for his flowery speeches backed by no action and his fine native attire, yet he remains silent on Ghanaian refugees living at the mercy of Cote d'Ivoire. The unimaginable scale of Galamsey today and the killings of innocent Ghanaians in his own backyard. Gaza is safer than Bole and its environs. On the pressing issues confronting our beloved nation, he has nothing to say. Woe unto you, O nation, when your king is a child. The UN's beloved Ghana is not in a safe place. Samuel Brian Boabing from Awoshi sends that. Now, Master Planner Jr., who is from Kentapo, he's a policy analyst. He says, I'm really enjoying the discussion this morning. Extend my warm regards to Apostle Paul for his insightful dedication this morning. That's for Master Planner Jr. in Kentapo. Desmond, who is the... Okay, Desmond, I have seen your message. Thank you very much for that. And, okay. So I guess that we'll have to move on to... Oh, sorry, Enoch in Afenya says, good morning, well-spoken. Afenya says, good morning, well-spoken, Mr. President, at the UN Summit. I'm really impressed with your boldness and confidence. You also hit the nail right on the head. Anyway, Mr. President, I'm still reminding you that PSC Tema Shipyard needs a board. He's been championing this for a very long time. Mansa Musa from UK says, let us not forget the President William Ruto and Kenya's remarkable achievements in the Haiti crisis. When President Ruto first mooted the idea of sending troops to help contain lawlessness that had engulfed Haiti in recent past, many thought of it as an exercise in futility and that he, President William Ruto, was engaging in empty grandstanding on the global stage. Now, though, all indications point to resounding success in that adventure. This is not a mean feat. And I thought one and all should join in saying, well done, President Ruto, well done, Kenyan Army, and well done, Kenya. Mansa Musa sensed this. And finally, Salaam alaikum. Is it an arbitration or a norm to have daily briefings on the U.S. deportees? Did I hear Adomachi say Ghanaians need daily briefings? Good morning. Sani Sali who sent that message. So, yes. Yeah. Ghana Law Society, Ghana Bar Association. Well, in the meantime, you know, Dapamako, yes, the North Dai MP, he's in court.
So I thought that the Fiamako,
yes,
we should have awaited the outcome of the suit in court.
Okay.
Because there are some issues that ought to be trashed out.
Okay.
You know, the Attorney General of Ghana is the leader of the bar.
Right.
So, leader of the bar means simply that he's the leader of all lawyers. Now, and lawyers will include in this present situation members of the Ghana Bar Association and members of the Law Society. So it appears to me that everywhere they have gone, they appear to be one monolithic institution representing lawyers. Recently you heard of the Bar Council of England and Wales, and that is the recognized body in England and Wales representing the interests of lawyers. Now, what is going to happen, and has happened before, like one of your texters said, it happened when Ward Brew thought that, well, the Bar Association of Ghana, the Ghana Bar Association had a stronghold on lawyers, and that our constitution allows for freedom of association, and so he was establishing the Bar Association of Ghana, BAG. That failed. That failed. I don't know how Law Society is going to do. What I fear is that Law Society must also not be seen as a counter to Ghana Bar Association in terms of ideology. That's what I fear. I mean, if that takes root within the Ghana Law Society, then we will eventually make that institution partisan, very, very partisan. And we need an institution representing lawyers which will look at issues dispassionately.
But if you look at the people who are forming this association itself, doesn't that make it a little partisan?
Well,
I mean,
they should not make it partisan. That's why they should come to talk to. I mean, if they want members, they should justify why some people should join them. It will be dangerous if the Ghana Bar Association, that is the champion of the rights and freedoms of persons, that will advocate for people, that will stand in for people, prosecute cases in court based on the merits of the case and not on any political persuasion or ideological persuasion. It's seen more in political light. I mean, you might win a case and somebody will attribute your success to partisan political consideration. Or you might lose your case and then someone will tag you as not being a good lawyer because you are associated with a political party.
But
so,
what do you want them to do? I'm a lawyer. I belong to an association. The association is not championing my interest. Shouldn't somebody create another platform for me to take advantage?
I'm just adding these views because I've been in that situation before. Okay. When I joined Law Trust was seen principally as a left-leaning group, a law firm, and we were associated largely with and we are still associated largely with the NDC. So when we went there, when I went there, we joined them. They said, "Look, sir, yes." And that time the NDC was in power. They said, sir, you see, when you go to court, you're going to win a case on its merit. So before you go to court, prepare and make sure that you demonstrate to all those sitting at the bar and also on the bench that you are a lawyer in your own right.
Okay.
And that philosophy is what has gotten Law Trust moving up to date and now has expanded to include our 16 or so lawyers. Because you see, it will be painful to win a case and someone takes the shine off you by alleging that you won because you are a member of a political party and that judge who is sitting there is also sympathetic to that political party.
But that's the conversation we've always been having.
No, I don't. As a lawyer, I don't want that discussion. I don't want that conversation. I want the conversation which will recognize the industry effort and understanding intellect of a lawyer.
I get it. That's the ideal. But
there's no ideal.
The reality of our times.
That is what should happen. That's what should happen.
Yes.
That you should be appreciated based on what you have done, not because of your association.
Well, it looks like we're not there yet.
We should be there, we should move towards that.
Okay. All right. But what do you think about the Dafamako case? So he says that they filed a writ at the Supreme Court challenging the exclusive recognition of the Ghana Bar Association in Ghana's legal and constitutional framework. Now, it was a writ they filed on Tuesday, and it's invoking the original jurisdiction of the Supreme Court under Articles 21 and 131 of the 1992 Constitution. That plaintiffs are arguing that the current GBA, which operates as a private voluntary association, should not be treated as the sole representative body of lawyers in the country. Paul, what do you make of this?
I think there are three or so legs that I'd like to look at this. First of all, the legal action is really the second or third stage. Okay. The media activity is the precursor. What the Dafiamapo writ is seeking to do essentially is to reset the ideological position of the Ghana Bar Association, and that's going to be very difficult. There's a reason why. The Ghana Bar Association, or many bar associations for that matter, have certain principles and philosophies they stand for. They stand for human rights, fundamentally. They stand for fair trial. They stand for a judicial system that is independent of executive. Every bar association stands for that because these are lawyers, and that is their practice. And their practice will be compromised if there are no human rights, if there are no rules of courts that allow everyone to be heard and clear rules of courts, if there are no independent judges, their work will be jeopardized. Their work is also very important in shaping democracy. By reason of this, you have had all the bar associations of the world almost automatically aligning with right-wing political parties. Because this ethos also you will find fundamental to right-wing political parties, human rights, fundamental to right-wing political parties. Independence of the judiciary, fundamental to right-wing political parties. And all of those rights that the Ghana Bar Association fights for, it is also the rights that right-wing parties look at. So if you look at the Ghana Bar in particular, it makes it even worse. It was established way back, but its ethics and code documentation was in 1958. Think about 1958. It's 1 year after independence. think about the struggles that led us to independence. Look at Ghana's situation in 1958 of a right-wing and a left-wing party. Who are the people who are dreaming up this Ghana Bar Association charter? J.B. Dankwa. And so it immediately polarizes the situation. What is the Ghana Bar Association going to look for? Human rights. What is the fundamental anti-human rights regulation in Ghana at the time? Preventive Detention Act. The Bar Association takes a major position against the PDA. Dankwa is arguing in court against the PDA. He's also president of the Bar from 1962 and 1963. So the Bar is positioned as if it is locking horns with the Nkrumah administration of the left. Okay, the coup comes in 1966. The Bar is still there. Many of the important civilian actors in the coup are senior members of the Bar. Akufo-Addo becomes Chief Justice. Olenu and all of these left, right-wing lawyers. They are Victor Owusu and others. These are important members of the Bar throughout the 60s, Bosman and co., who are now part of the civilian part of the coup, sort of, and railroading Ghana into another constitutional establishment to be led by Buzia. So Buzia comes in, and then there's one or two brushes with the cases in court relating to the 578. And then comes the Buzia's overthrow, and it comes another left-wing military government running through the 70s. The Ghana Bar Association constitutes itself from 1974 towards 75, almost as an opposition to Akufo-Addo's Achampon's government. Dr. Obeda Samoa, people like Akufo-Addo and all that, were all in the parts of the PMFJ. That was largely propagated by the Ghana Bar Association. Right. Now you cross over to the election, and then to the 80s, Rawlings takes office. Rawlings is also left-leaning in appearance, and is a military government. Again, for that whole decade, the Ghana Bar Association stands tall. And who are the members and the leaders of the Ghana Bar Association? Peter Ala-Ajete, president of the Ghana Bar. Later on, chairman of the New Patriotic Party. Samuel Okujeto, member of the New Patriotic Party. Kwashi from Takoradi, another member of the New Patriotic Party. All of these people are principal political actors on the right side of the politics and are leading the Bar. So again, the Bar is seen as opposed to, sort of and then the NDC is born out of the PNDC. So NDC starts, and it looks like the Bar is kind of against them and that kind of thing. Whilst I say this, I have to say, though, for Nana Akufo-Addo in 1995, that he was nominated and being asked to be president of the Bar in 1995. He declined. His view of the matter was very similar to what Honorable is saying, that he's a politically exposed lawyer by leaps and bounds. And he doesn't want to be president of the Bar after Ajete and Kunye and all of these people. And so he's not interested because he's going to run for parliament and he'll be an MPP member of parliament. So that said, the people may not be frontline politicians, and that's the crisis. The people in the Bar may not be frontline politicians, but by reason of Nena Megache, for instance, is a former Supreme Court judge. You can't say he's a frontline politician, even though he works for Samuel Okujeto. He's not a frontline politician. But if you can tell ideologically that he's more leaning towards right, maybe by reason of his legal practice, because for the legal practice to be successful, all those fundamentals must be in there, and these are the ethos that the right-wing cries for. So what has happened, and you heard it in the press conference that, in the interview that Felix Ofosu-Kwakye gave to Bernard Avile earlier in the year, where he said that for 30 years, the courts have been against the NDC. This is a conversation. This is the kinds of things that have been established. The Bar is always going to be seen as opposed to a left-wing government. It's everywhere in the world it's going to be. So what this rate is intending to achieve, and all the media, visiting acting chief judges intending to achieve, is a grand resetting of the ideology that underpins the Ghana Bar Association, and which, in fact, truly underpins bar associations all over the world. And that is why you saw the UK Council writing and taking similar positions as the Ghana Bar Association are taking, relating to the removal of the Chief Justice and all of these things. So it's a grand ideological reset that Dapiama Falls rate hopes to achieve, but it's going to be very, very difficult to achieve it, because I'm not sure why. Then there is another part of it which is fair. The payment of dues appears to have been monopolized by the Ghana Bar Association as a platform through which dues are paid, and is sanctioned by the General Legal Council. And so, as I understand it, if you're a practicing lawyer and you are not a member of the Bar, or you don't pay through the Bar, you might not even be able to renew your license. Yes. That is an important part that must be checked, because there is freedom of association according to the Constitution. And that General Legal Council is the one that makes people lawyers. The Ghana Bar Association does not make them lawyers. The General Legal Council does. And so once they have become lawyers, their obligation is to the certificates that they have and the regulations that govern the certificates, which are regulations by the General Legal Council. If they have to necessarily be member of an organization to be able to achieve the things they have to achieve and make obeisance to the regulations as a lawyer, then that's almost, blackmail. You have to be a member of the Ghana Bar. And that may be where this expression is coming from. But ideologically, really, it's a reset that they are looking for. But I think that if that is true, relating to how lawyers must renew their license, then maybe they must check it and allow people to be. But it will be a tragedy if we're going to have 2 competing bars or 3 competing bar associations in Ghana.
The issue even goes beyond just renewal of licenses. There are issues about even stickers. Stickers. They say they are made to buy stickers. I mean, even though they pay their dues, every month.
Well, that's a levy for a contribution to the coffers, and they can discuss at their bar conferences and take a vote on it, whether they want it or not.
And then 2, they say every program that they organize, they charge them plenty money for them to pay before they attend, and they have a problem with that. They said they've complained several times.
But don't they have transparency in how the accounts are used?
I doubt.
But that's a problem.
That's a problem.
If there's no transparency in how the accounts are used, that's a real problem that must be looked at.
Yeah.
Because I can't see how an association of lawyers can be cheated.
Yeah.
That come and pay something and then nobody accounts for it. Association of lawyers?
Okay.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
So no, Paul is right. I mean, the bar, the practice of law. No, it's not innocent.
That's where he's coming from.
The practice of law is out of Western culture, Western civilization.
Right.
And now, and Western civilization has some underlying values and principles. And so, a bar association formed on that Western values would obviously toe a certain line. Okay. But as the world evolves and as the professions develop, one will expect that leaders of those professions and professional groupings will now take a life of their own and divorce themselves from the overbearing influence of other cultures and traditions. For instance, if you are a member of the Ghana Bar Association elected to be president, you must conduct yourself in such a way as to win the confidence of the people to represent their aspirations. And this is what we're not saying in the bar. But the bar elected people who are aligned to new liberals or liberals in Ghana, I thought that is made. I mean, even this present president of the Ghana Bar Association is the wife of a distinguished member of the MPP. And so it's made. But we are saying that the bar must be consistent. When Kufuor won in 2000 and formed government in 2001, the Bar Association issued a very funny statement. They said they were not going to be involved in political debates or they were not going to comment on political issues. And everybody was taken aback. And people saw that because MPP was in power, the bar was distancing, was removing that check that it placed on the NDC in the Rawlings era. Again, when Nana Akufo-Addo was held to have breached the Constitution by the Supreme Court, the bar did not comment. In the Dumuluvo case or in the Charlotte Osei case. Why was the bar uncannily silent? And so people are seeing, and then NDC wins, and immediately they have gone for their own ropes and wigs, and they are talking on top of their voices and saying things they ought to have said. When the Attorney General, Godfrey Dame, was said to have acted in the way that was unethical, didn't you hear a statement from the Bar Association? The leader of the Bar Association did not say anything.
But the courts have ruled on the Godfrey Dame matter.
But the courts ruled. The courts have ruled on the Tokono case. There are many cases, but the Bar Association had voice to talk about that.
Unless you feel that the court ruling was not satisfactory.
What I'm saying is that
it wasn't satisfactory, but the court ruled on it.
When a leader of the bar behaved in an ethical manner, that attracted the attention of the court. The Bar Association did not say anything. They didn't see anything wrong with that.
Should they have seen something wrong when the court ruling came out?
That is what is leading to the perception.
The perception that they are anti-NDC.
Yeah, anti-NDC.
Okay.
And sometimes I share in that.
The Bar Association.
The Bar Association.
Is it that the numbers or the leadership? What do you say the Bar is against NDC? What do you mean? The leadership or the numbers of lawyers?
But Bar Association is an alter ego of the leadership.
Okay, so you mean the leadership? But this leadership, is it not by voting? Do people not become leaders of the bar by elections?
So because they are neoliberals, they gather themselves and go and pass a resolution that the president should reverse. And nobody alluded to any constitutional provision that was breached by the president.
All right,
they talked about unfair trial. They talked about unfair trial.
Let me read this message briefly.
Yeah.
So Dr. Nyahunya Otamaklo, who's a statesman, and, he sent a message. Says, "Good morning, Moro. Paul's claim that Nanado declined the position to become president of the Ghana Bar Association is not clear. He didn't do that because he was politically exposed. If my memory could serve me right, Akufo-Addo was the president or general secretary of the Greater Accra Bar Association. So can Paul explain that? Togbi Nyahu Tamaklo." Now, this one here from Godwin Eduzi Tamaklo, the MPH executive officer, he sends a message and he says, "President John Dramani Mahama has demonstrated remarkable courage and leadership in calling for the crimes in Gaza to stop. Crimes against humanity have no political coloration. My senior, Honorable Abu Jinapo, his call for Ghana to remain non-aligned puts the MPP at the wrong side of history. This is how Nazism was enabled." Now, Samuel Brabaving is back. He says, Nana Akufo-Addo broke no law in the Charlotte Osei case. The consequences were entirely of her own making.
Exactly.
Now,
so
McLean says it's simplistically.
But he's saying that there was no law broken in that process.
Yeah, exactly. So there's no law broken.
But they are alleging that there's a law broken in the Tokonu process. Oh, there are laws broken in the Tokonu process.
So good morning, Moro. It's simplistically funny how President John Mahama views issues on one way in Ghana, but speaks contrary when he's outside the country. The double standards and shifting to
which way
are glaringly worrying.
I'm sure he's talking about the refugees.
This apparently is one of the reasons many Ghanaians find it difficult to trust politicians. Only God alone is truly faithful and fruitful. Juma Mubarak, that's from MD from Refugee also. Now, Dennis Glan sends a message. Dennis says, Paul does a better job for Ghana on Good Morning Ghana than on Good Evening Ghana. Okay, so Samuel Brown, thank you. Thanks for sending me those messages. Now, Musa Abatwa says that, good morning, Morola Inusa is spot on. President Mohammed's address at the 80th UN General Assembly will go down in history as the second most powerful African speech ever recorded after Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. His bold call for international community to lift the blockade on Cuba was not only historic but visionary. President Mohammed is truly the future of Africa. What an inspiring moment. Goosebumps, greetings to the Chief of Staff, Julius Deborah. And Alhaji Suwari from the United States of America, he says that the argument that the NDC and academics have always made is that the economies that had pre-existing conditions and fiscal vulnerability before COVID suffered severe consequences and in the post-pandemic era. And Ghana was one of those countries. The IMF and World Bank have all said Ghana's economy was suffering from COVID, from economic frailty, even before COVID. This is tried knowledge. I don't know why Bamia as an economist has always waded into this propaganda by the NP full soldiers. In any case, it was Bamia who denied that a global phenomenon can affect economies like Ghana. In 2015, he asked why a global phenomenon could leave Cote d'Ivoire, Togo, and others and attack Ghana in response to the effects of the decline in global commodity price in 2015, which was a global economic crisis. Let's be honest in the way we do our politics. Good morning to President Mahama, and kudos to him for such a wonderful delivery yesterday at UNGA. I like so it looks like you are, well, okay, I will say it. So Prosper Shikwe in Asalam Down says, Moro, I side with Paul on media's inability to probe issues deep. In the interest of getting good and adequate information for our citizenry, and this I have said a countless time, trust me, Ghana's media proliferation cannot be felt at all. I don't know if it's a result of fear. I doubt, but Ghanaians would want to know what's happening in the fight against corruption and the people who have been cited in the past months. What is happening to them? What is happening to them? Ghanaians want to know. Come on, there should be times we need to snap out of politics to seek the good interests of the masses. Failure to do so renders the media ineffective. Good morning, and good morning to you too. And thank you very much for... and then this one here, Abdul Razak says, well, where would Paul situate Kandapa's comment on Supreme Court unanimous verdicts? Okay, so I think he's raising the point about the concerns that the former, National Security Minister had about verdicts from the Supreme Court. So I don't know if we can do this, Samuel, good thing, because our time is almost up. The NLA matter, if we can do 2 minutes each, because it's a back and forth between the former NLA boss and the Fourth Estate. But I'll just take a paragraph, and then you give just brief comments, because our time is up. Now, the former Director General of the National Lottery Authority, Samuel Euku, has described the recent investigative reports by the Fourth Estate regarding the authority's Good Causes Foundation as lopsided and unrepresentative of the agency's broader impact. The report published earlier this month alleges that funds are intended for the poor and vulnerable were diverted to glamorous events and questionable enterprises, including sponsorship for award ceremonies and corporate summits. However, in a detailed response issued yesterday, Mr. Euku dismissed the claims, insisting that the report focused narrowly on event sponsorship while ignoring the significant social investment made by the foundation. He acknowledges that NLA did sponsor high-profile events such as the Emmy Africa Awards and the Ghana CEO Summit, but stressed that these formed only about 5% of the foundation's total budget. According to Mr. Euku, these sponsorships were strategic marketing decisions aimed at drawing corporate attention to the Caritas lottery platform and expanding its reach. The vast majority of our resources were channeled into life-saving and community-enhancing projects. We built toilet facilities and boreholes in underserved regions, equipped hospitals, and it goes on and on and on and on to talk about what he's used the monies for. It's about 95%. The 5% are into things that some people feel were unnecessary. So, I mean, I don't know how you can do this. Well, we have less than 5 minutes to go.
So, and paid the hostel bills of a member of parliament. I thought that members of parliament were entitled to medical care by the service. Okay. And I saw a member of parliament, is that the one from Kumasi, Ashanti region? Yeah. Whose fees, whose medical bills had been paid 40,000 Ghana cedis. I also saw some expenditures which raised some issues with me, because these expenses that went to state institutions, who approved them? I mean, does the Ghana, the National Lotteries Authority, have a document, a policy document that determines and shows clearly how monies belonging to the organizations can be spent on good cause matters? I mean, who defines the good cause? Is there an unfettered discretion in the Director General of the Ghana Lotteries Authority to spend money anyhow? I mean, when he feels that that money will aid a good cause. So you see, when monies are spent this way, when a discretion is exercised this way, and I've read through the list, and including supporting people who were undertaking commercial activities with money. I mean, and I fail to see what benefit that was going to accrue to the Ghana Lotteries Authority by those expenditures. So who approved them? What was the policy document that enabled that monies to be spent? I mean, I thought lotteries was instituted to help Ghana make some money to be able to support the budget. But now it's clear to me that the way the former Director General of the Lotteries Authority spent the money was not in any way aiding the mission and purpose of the authority, but a wrongful exercise of discretion. I think that the investigative authorities should be interested in looking at the matter and going into the fine details of the matter. How come that people knew? I've never known that there's a good causes foundation existing at the Ghana Lotteries, the National Lotteries Authority, and that people can apply. So how did those people get to know and to apply for 100,000, 600, and in some instances 600,000 Ghana cedis released to those entities for purposes of undertaking private activities, including a payment to somebody of 100,000 Ghana cedis as school fees, educational support, 100,000 Ghana cedis. Was in Ghana, or was it also a scholarship given to somebody to study outside the country?
Isn't it a good cause to pay for somebody's school fees?
So what does GET Fund do? What does the GNPC do? So how will you know that that person who took the 100,000 that has not benefited from the scholarship secretariat? And who was the person? Who is that person in actual fact?
Right.
You know, there are many questions. I mean, what the expenditure clearly convinces me that it enables corruption, and that until we go back and look at the justification for those expenditures and whether those people were not just taking money. I mean, it became an avenue for people to siphon money from the authority. We might not get to the bottom of the matter.
Paul?
Well, I think that the media house, the fourth estate that did the work, or that's doing the work, must come a bit more clearer and confront the issues with the NLA people and give them the fair hearing. So if you find that monies have been, because if you look at social media, you see the responses back and forth, and they say that fourth estate has been selective in showing people who benefited from it and all of that. It's not really fair journalism. If 100 people benefited and you are showing 20 of them, then there's a problem. So,
huge number.
Well, but they're saying there are some significant people who benefited that they are not talking about. So we have to expose the whole thing and look at the administrative decision behind it. Because I don't even think it's prosecutable. I'm not sure under what offense they are going to be prosecuted in this matter. But perhaps they are raising issues of potential avenues for corruption. So it's a policy issue they are raising then. So we should look at it and see what policy can be. But in terms of journalism, they should by now submit all the information to the past NLA bosses and let them have their response, and the general public can look at it.
Okay.
But this once in a while they throw in somebody got this and another person. They look for people who have gossip value and all of that. I mean, that's not fair.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us this morning. It's been wonderful having you. It's a beautiful Friday. The weekend is here. Please make sure that if you want to have some fun, please don't overindulge. And we have a big event coming up this evening, but I don't know what I have the right to say. And this event is about Arona and Fuampofo. But I won't tell you what the event is about and where it is taking place. But what I can tell you is that this is the end of the show for this week. My name is Audu Moro. Thanks for watching. Good morning, Ghana. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Let's meet at the mosque at 12:30 and pray some and offer our Juma prayers. Have a wonderful weekend. Bye-bye.
This October, the world of public relations converges in Accra. The Institute of Public Relations Ghana, in partnership with the African Public Relations Association, the Public Relations Society of Kenya, and the